a seat. Grab yourself a cup of Joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of Joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Oh, we can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of Joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Memorial Day Eve, Sunday, May 25th. A special episode with my co-host that I'm going to bring up in a second. Here we go. 857, welcome in. 857 Tucson.
Hey, welcome in. Thank you for having me, Joe, and welcome into 857 community as well. And so I don't a lot of people already have been following both of us, so I think if you want to jump right into it, I think we have the title correctly, and we're here for a good cause to try and just find some answers. So thanks everyone for tuning in.
Absolutely. Welcome into your communities. We're doing a co-stream today, so I posted your YouTube link there in our chat so people can go and subscribe to you. So the way that you and I met was you host a channel where you show the Pima County court twice a day, every day for the initial appearances. That's how you and I met,
sir.
right? Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And I find that intriguing, number one, because you see a lot of interesting cases. You see a lot of interesting defendants in there, shall we say. But your community is great too, and I feel like I'm a part of your community now too in that chat, and I know a lot of the people there are coming to hang out with us this afternoon, which is awesome. But we also form our opinions. We form our opinions about the public defenders, which are our favorite public defenders, which are our least favorite, the judges, which are our favorite, which are our least favorite, and they all handle things differently, but we rarely see the law enforcement side of things in that, and we're going to kind of take a little sneak peek at that today. We're going to get a little inside info. But I'm just an everyday Joe Schmoe.
Partnering with, well, and that's why I like, just getting to know you and your passion in really, helping, I think, just the communities, but also the people in the law enforcement agency, maybe just somebody new eyes on it. So I appreciate what you do, and also just the main thing on this one is try to find out where Patricia Woo disappeared to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so. My channel, I started my channel because I am just an everyday Joe Schmoe with an interest in true crime and mysteries in history, if you will. And I think we're going to see this as part B right now. It's an unsolved mystery right now.
Yeah.
And so how did it first get your attention? So are you a lifelong member of Tucson, or did you move there at some point in your life?
No, I was born here a long time ago. So now, as far as this specific case, it was just, unique in the sense that it was right around Easter. And so usually, Easter that weekend is just about family and things like that. And so when that came out, it was like there wasn't a lot of news going on from what I remember, other than, hearing about that. And then once I found out that they found her car up on Windy Point, everybody assumes, well, they're going to start searching up in that area, which they did. And so everything was just kind of quiet at the beginning. We heard a little bit that came out about her, who she was, and then her car was found. And then the sheriff came out and said, we've searched 6 days and we can't really do any more search. We've done everything we can. And so then the big search stopped. And at the original search, I was following along, and they said, they had the dogs out there, the drones, the search teams, professionals, and for 6 days straight. And then after the 6 days, they had the Southern Arizona Rescue Foundation, which had a huge drone. There's video on my page where, they were out there flying the drone to see if for more days. And so then I went up there with a friend, and he was a drone guy, and we spent a day. So it's just kind of been a mystery ever since, and no details have been released other than what came out at the beginning from the authorities.
Right. Except for you told me that I should submit a FOIA request for the police report. And
Yeah,
it's crazy because they responded to it. Like, we got that a couple of days ago. And when you see the cover page of this police report, my mind was blown. I was like, wait, it says this on the bottom of the page. How did I get this? But there are details as we go through the 40 pages. Some of them are just like a couple of lines on a page. So it's not going to take us, 2 hours to go through it. It'll be fairly succinct. But it did blow my mind that you suggested I FOIA and the FOIA request was successful, because there's another case we're following. We won't talk about it now, that I have not gotten diddly squat from my FOIA request in the other case. So this blew my mind when we got this. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's watch a couple of the police reports from the very beginning. So people who aren't up to speed in the case, like I wasn't when you first started talking to me about it, can get up to speed in the case. So we'll start out with her initial disappearance, and then a couple of follow-ups about the searches, and then we'll take a look at the police investigation report. Jermaine, that's a Braves hat. You know it. All right, let's get into the police reports. Here we go.
The search continues for a missing 35-year-old woman. Her name is Hoi Kei Woo. She's also known as Patricia. We've been telling about you for some days now. Take a look at your screens. This is what she looks like. Please tell us she was last seen back on Friday, April 18th. Her car was found at Windy Point on Mount Lemmon on Sunday. Deputies say she was last seen wearing a black shirt and pajama pants. Anyone with information is urged to call 911. Bring the very latest on the search coming up at 4 p.m.
It's a question that's been circling social media and filling our email inbox here at News 4 Tucson for the past week. Where is Patricia Woo?
I hope they find her.
I hope that she does get found and she comes home and she's safe.
After 6 days of searching,
our team never knows, where do we end? I mean, we haven't found her. How do we end this? And, I think if I let them, they'd go 24/7 forever. But at some point in time, you've got to call it and hopefully work it from a different angle.
Here's what we know from PCSD. Woo was last seen on April 18th. She was reported missing to Tucson police on April 19th. On the 20th, her car was found on Mount Lemmon at Windy Point.
We went through everything in that vehicle. We've worked close with her husband, the family on this.
The sheriff's department says there's nothing to indicate any type of foul play.
We just don't suspect anything that tells us there was a crime here, but we won't rule that out.
I met with deputies on the mountain Wednesday to talk about their efforts in the air and on the ground.
This is extremely tough terrain here. We have other agencies helping us. So the Forest Service, DPS Ranger is out here. Sarah is out here, the Southern Arizona Rescue Association. Their search dogs.
They rappel through down into those rock canyons. They fly their drones in and out of there. We use heat from our night vision teams and thermal imaging.
So the search there has come to an end, now relying on the public to help.
Maybe somebody knows something that will help us, that little piece of information. And then we can always reopen the investigation.
We have the latest from the Pima County Sheriff's Department
We're just
on the
going to
search
roll
for
through these.
35-year-old Patricia Woo. After 6 days of searching, the Sheriff's Department says they've exhausted all resources. According to PCSD, she was last seen on April 18th. Her car was found on April 20th up at Windy Point on Mount Lemmon. The search there involved federal, state, and local agencies, including PCSD, TPD, the Forest Service, DPS, SARA, and more. If anyone has any information, you're supposed to contact the department at 520-351-4900 or call 911.
All right. We might go ahead and watch that last video clip because that takes us up to current day, saying they still have not found her. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch this last clip that brings us up to current day. It's 4.5 minutes long.
Late breaking. 13 news.
Sounds good.
No.
Still doesn't feel real at times. It definitely doesn't. I feel like I can still text her and be like, hey, what's up?
It's a mystery that has gripped the Tucson community. Friends and family are still looking for answers after 35-year-old Hoi Kei Woo, who also goes by Patricia, disappeared. Her car was found on Mount Lemmon nearly a month ago. Good evening, and thanks for joining us for 13 News Live at 10. I'm Dan Maries.
And I'm Mary Coleman. Tonight, we are learning more about who Patricia is as authorities continue to ask for the public's help in finding her. 13 News reporter Ashley Bowerman spoke with some of those who knew her best. And Ashley, what are they saying tonight?
Well, Mary and Dan, I spoke with some of Patricia's friends who attended school with her at the University of Arizona. They tell me those close to her don't know why she would be at Windy Point on Mount Lemmon. They also say it's very out of character for her to not tell anyone where she's going.
I think that's just really hard to grasp, that she's not here right now and no one knows where she is.
The disappearance of Patricia Woo has weighed heavily on the hearts of her family and friends.
It's still surreal at times, and I miss her a lot.
The University of Arizona is what brought Patricia to Tucson. A university article written about her says she discovered the U of A during an exchange program while pursuing a bachelor's degree in pharmacy in Hong Kong. Cindy Cho met Patricia in 2018 when she was an exchange student.
She's just such an outgoing, friendly person that we became fast friends and just kept in touch.
Cindy says Patricia fell in love with the U of A and the desert and eventually made the decision to apply for a Master of Science in Business Analytics at the Eller College of Management. She graduated in December last year. Her friends say Patricia has lived in Tucson for the last several years and lives with her husband, who she met at the U of A.
She's one of the best people in my life.
Michelle Thomas also went to school with Patricia. She says they quickly became close friends. She's described by those who love her as being a force of nature, intelligent, always curious, humble, and having a love of food.
She loves eating. Really, she loves trying new things. And so that's what me and her bonded about, is because she was always down to trying new places.
They never thought their friend would become the focus of a missing persons investigation.
It still is just unreal.
The Pima County Sheriff's Department says Patricia was last seen on April 18th and was reported missing the following day. This is a photo of her vehicle, which was discovered on April 20th at Windy Point on Mount Lemmon. Michelle says what happened in the approximately 48 hours before her vehicle was found is crucial.
I'm hoping that somebody in her neighborhood would come forward if they have like a Ring camera of some sort.
It remains a mystery as to why Patricia would be at Windy Point. Michelle says Patricia's belongings were found inside the vehicle.
It's kind of seemed like she just vanished into thin air because like her purse and her phone were left there with the vehicle, and they searched for her for over 6 days. I know like if they had helicopters and drones, people climbing down, experienced people climbing down, and with people with dogs, canine dogs. And so like they didn't find anything after 6 days, and then they called off the search.
PCSD's Search and Rescue Unit says they have exhausted all resources and trying to locate Patricia. The department says they are not actively searching without any new information. PCSD tells 13 News they are not ruling out any possibilities, but say at this time there is no foul play suspected. Her friends say the family, her younger sister, and parents who live in Hong Kong have hired a private investigator. They are holding on to hope that someone saw something that can help lead detectives in the right direction.
Best case scenario is finding her home safe and sound.
PCSD did say the Southern Arizona Rescue Association had drones out looking for Patricia this week. Authorities are, of course, now asking for the public's help in finding her. If you have any information, contact PCSD. Their number 520-351-4900 or call 911.
Late breaking.
All right. So, quick summary. She was a foreign exchange student from Hong Kong. She came to U of A, University of Arizona, to get her master's degree. She got her master's degree. She also met her would-be husband, American name John, like she's Patricia. That's not her her native name, and that's not his native name. But she goes by Patricia. He goes by John. You'll see in the police reports.
Hoi K, Hoikei Woo. That's her name. And then
that's her natural born name. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So she was here in the US on a student visa. And after you graduate with whatever degree you came to the States in, you have a certain amount of time to apply for a job and maybe to get a job. I think we see in this police report that you definitely have like 90 days to apply for a job. And it looks like she was applying for some jobs and she was not having much luck in
and there
finding
is
a job.
one video. I don't think we saw it. I thought I was going to see it in there, but they interviewed her professor from the school. And he said she was supposed to be she was supposed to come to his office on Monday to talk about a new job opportunity that he had for her, potentially. So,
oh, wow.
I'll send that over, but we'll post that up possibly after the stream today so people can see that, people actually were looking out for her, and her professor was expecting to meet with her on Monday or Tuesday the following after that weekend.
Wow. After Easter weekend. Wow. So one of the things that plays a part in this is Windy Point Vista and Mount Lemmon, which is outside of Tucson. So we'll see in the police report that they had just gone to Windy Point the weekend before, I think the 13th, or 2 weeks before. They had actually visited this exact same place where her car was found. And it's rough, rugged terrain, and I can't imagine being a search person having to perform a search in these conditions. So we're going to zoom in on it real quick.
And just a little side note to everybody listening, I have not heard 90% of what Joe is going to share with us today. So we're all kind of hearing this together. I'm hearing it with you. I didn't know that they had went up there previously in the previous weekend. So a lot of this stuff I'm finding out with you. So thanks again, Joe, for digging deeper and helping on this.
Sure. So here's Tucson down in the lower left corner of my Google Earth, and here's Windy Point Vista up here, like way up in the mountains. Right now I have terrain off, but we're going to zoom in on Windy Point. So she drove up from the house up through these switchback curves to get up here. So there's Windy Point Vista up there, kind of at the top of this part of it. It looks like there are areas that may be a little higher, but there's the road. That's like a windy, curvy road that goes up the base of that and then swings back around and comes up to the southwest and then swings back around. And right here is where that public parking area is that we saw in that one news report. There's that one building we saw in the background when they were interviewing that one guy that said, we hope they find her. But her car was found where? 857?
So it was found across the street. So not where the bathrooms are. It was found across the street in the first parking spot. Next to the
crosswalk. Okay.
Right
There's
there.
the crosswalk.
Yeah, so
she parked right there.
Right
okay.
there. Yep. Exactly.
All right. And then so go ahead.
That's where we also flew the drones with my friend, who's a very experienced drone flyer. I mean, he's just as experienced as any of the people that are up there doing it. And one good point I want to bring up is we were flying the drones from up on top there, right? But if you go down this little mountain, down the road a little bit, if you scroll out a little bit for me, and you go down the road, at the bottom of this mountain is actually another little turnoff that we stopped and we started flying the drones because he said it's a better connection. So he didn't, that's one thing that obviously opening the search area, but the drones have been flown all throughout this specific Windy Point area. So back to where you were at.
Yeah, so I'm going to make everybody who has a tendency to vertigo sick right here. I'm going to turn on the terrain aspect of Google Earth. What did I do? What did I do? Google Earth, no, you're killing me. Oh my goodness. Maybe we're not going to get a chance to see it right now. All right, let me turn terrain back off and try it on again. Nope, terrain's not going to work. It's steep, like this hillside right here. So I can't believe terrain's not working. It's killing me. It didn't work when I was doing my LA fires update the other day too. I may have to get a new machine. But look on the north side of that. Look at that drop off on the north side, like right there. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that the steep is definitely. I have the video where I went up there, and there's areas where most people stay, but if you go off the beaten path, it's very steep.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the police report.
Sounds
because there are a lot of questions in chat right now, and I think as we go through the police report, a lot of these questions are going to be answered.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Hold on, Kelt. It's very steep and lots of chances to fall, or if you want to do self-harm, there are lots of chances for that too. But you would think if you did that, they would find you at some point in time, right?
Well, and that's what I want to get into after you go over what you're going to share with everybody, on different ways to look at this after we hear what you're going to present.
Right. And coming from the true crime community, and a lot of my My family that are in here with me right now are also from the true crime community. Where did my first thought go? Like who to look at? You know that. My first thought's the husband. Like, boom, he's the first guy I'm looking at, and I'm taking a hard look at this guy. And we'll, yes, right, Salty. Yeah, just because her car was found there doesn't mean something happened to her, and doesn't mean something didn't happen to her.
Yeah, well, and with that, I have made a post. If you go on my Facebook page, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and the husband is I don't want to say he's been cleared or anything because he's not, but the fingers have not been necessarily pointing to him. And people say, well, it could be and it could be, but there's nothing that's actually giving any sort of clues that he would be. And so that's why I've been just really trying to focus on the facts that we do have and not putting like any sort of pointing fingers at anybody, right?
Right, exactly. So I'm just going to have the document up here. I'm not going to have us up here. That's wrong. No, that doesn't work. There we go. I'm going to make it just the document so y'all can read it if you're like on your phone or something. And then I can just pay attention to the document itself, and scrolling through the document and describing and talking about it. This is from the Pima County Sheriff's Department Detail Incident Report. Check welfare was the original nature. Rincon Beat 1. Private or confidential information such as date of birth, social security number, and home address have been redacted pursuant to Arizona law. So this is the exact document that I got, of course, with my watermark on it from the sheriff's office. Narrative: restricted access, no public dissemination, high profile case. On the bottom of this, these records contain private and confidential information and should not be secondarily disseminated outside of the investigative agency. So those two statements there kind of got my attention just a little bit. I'm like, how did I get this? Well, they redacted it. And so now it is public information and I can share it with you. The first few pages these are the responding law enforcement units. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 units, and then a FS 510. I wonder if that's fire service maybe. And then a SUR. I wonder if that's a type of search and rescue type of unit. Maybe. SUR2, I'm not familiar with that designation. Reportee, so that was her friend that found her car. Victim, Hoi Kei Woo, otherwise known as Patricia. Redacted. Other investigative lead, Zheng. That's her husband, John. Zheng is John. That's her husband. Michelle Thomas is another friend. I guess maybe she may have been the reporting person. I can't remember which one of those two friends of hers just said, hey, maybe she went up to Windy Point and I'm going to go check up there and found her car. Wanted person.
Well, how would she know that though? That's one thing I've always wondered is, how would she have known to go up there? Was there something that said that's where she was going?
Right.
So
maybe she just knew that they had been up there a week or two before that. Maybe she told her the story. Hey, we went up there and it was kind of cool, or it was kind of scary, or it was, whatever. There's her vehicle information. That was the license. I don't feel bad not redacting that because her license plate was like published on the news. Otherwise, I would have redacted that because that's probably still an active license plate. And we'll see what they did with her car after the fact. All right, we're going to go to page 24 because this kind of goes chronologically. We'll see page 10. Let's do we'll do page 10 first and then we'll do page 24. On April 20th, 2025, I was dispatched to a check welfare at Windy Point Vista, Catalina Highway, MP 22, advised a missing person's vehicle was located in the parking lot. Phone and purse is inside. Upon my arrival, I spoke to Heather Kinney. Okay, so she's the reporting friend, the original reportee. She pointed out the vehicle AZ plate that belongs to Hoi Kei Woo. She drove up to Mount Lemmon and has searched every vista on the way here for her vehicle. She thought Hoi would drive up here, but was not sure. She was not that close to her, but her sister was, Michelle. Her sister Michelle was close to Patricia. I was advised that some bathroom doors were locked. They thought it might be her inside. I checked and unlocked all the bathroom doors, but no one was found. The vehicle was locked, and through windows, we can see a purse, cell phone, and walking stick on the passenger seat. Due to dust on the vehicle, it was estimated it was parked through Friday night, snow, rain, weather. Later, the car was unlocked via a lockout kit. I made telephone contact with Michelle Thomas, so one of her other friends. Okay, so that's the sister of the gal that found the car. There we go. Okay, I just made that connection. So Heather Kinney was the one that found the car, but it was her sister, Michelle Thomas, that was friends with Patricia. Michelle advised that Hoi was stressed the last couple of weeks due to being unemployed. She went to the U.S., probably to Arizona, to the U of A on a foreign student visa. She felt and said to Michelle, she felt empty. She felt redacted. Most of Hoi friends from school left, and she felt alone. So her whole life changed in December when she graduated with her master's degree from U of A. It sounds like to me.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because she would be seeing all her friends every day, and then that stopped.
Right. And she was basically isolated in a foreign country with this husband that she had also met at the U of A.
Can you go up a little bit again? I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
Anything.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's see here. It says, because you skipped over that part right at the bottom there. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, it's 40 pages. I tried to highlight the stuff.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was just reading it, and then okay.
Yeah.
So
no, go.
Just read
Did you
that
see something?
bottom part where it says, she talks about the husband. If you read that next part right
Okay.
there, it says,
Michelle suggested to contact a counselor. Later, Michelle received information that she reached out to. Michelle did not know of any relationship problems she had with her husband. They had only been married for 1 year and met at the U of A. It's redacted, but we now know from that from that news report, it was the U of A. He is a quiet type, and she is outgoing. She used to be a redacted, but Michelle does not think Hoi had access to any medications. Okay. Yes, but did not know of any relationship problems she had with her husband.
and he was the quiet type. That's kind of.
Yes. Yep. She was outgoing and he was quiet. I also received a telephone call from Officer Hodges from Tucson PD, and this was where the initial missing persons report was filed in Tucson, not with Pima County Sheriff. So Tucson is their own entity, but once she got out up into Windy Hill, Mount Lemmon, it's in Pima County, so that's why they handle the missing persons investigation, the search, basically, the search and rescue aspect of it, and the investigation of the car. John Zheng advised that Hoi was really blank, redacted, but no suicidal threats. He last saw her at 8:30 in the morning. This is important. He last saw her at 8:30 in the morning on Friday in pajamas. The last time he attempted to call her was at 10:30 at night. That's 22:30 is 10:30 at night, but it went to voicemail. All the weapons were accounted for in the home. All information was given to search and rescue, and an updated photo was sent. So there's some clues there, one way or the other. They don't really tell us a whole lot, but I mean, they were different types, but she also didn't know of any marital issues between them, but we've seen that before both ways. So once again, my true crime true crime mind, say that 3 times fast. My true crime mind is still like he's back there in the back of my mind, but let's see where they take it, because the police definitely talk to him some more. Let's go down to page 24, which is another report from the 20th. So I was kind of curious why this wasn't up higher in the report, and then we'll go back and we'll go in chronological order after we get through this, because see, I have a red box around this. This is an important narrative to me.
Okay, and he waited till 10 o'clock to call her. Does that seem like an odd thing?
Well, you'll see what
Okay,
his
we'll let that-
reason /
okay.
excuse was. That that does come up. That does come up.
Okay, good. Yeah, because people are asking in different chats and stuff. And so if anyone does have
Right.
questions, just put it in the chat and we'll try to get to them for sure.
and I'm completely ignoring chat. I'm looking at the document and I'm completely ignoring
It's
chat.
hard, yeah.
And I've been warned not to do that. Stop ignoring chat, Joe.
Well, we're going to go back at the end and just see if anyone has questions. So if you just put them in the chat, we'll go back.
Are you in StreamYard right now? If you are, you can put a little star on those and we can come back and hit those. But I think a lot of these questions will be answered as we get through the rest of this police report.
All right, let's go.
Oh, Kelt can't straddle the chats. She needs to talk to Pammy. Pammy can straddle the chats. That's an inside joke. All right, let's this is another report on April 20th. So she was last seen on April 18th. She was reported missing on April 19th. I've got to correct my YouTube details, comments, because I got that wrong. Reported missing on the 19th. Her car was found on the 20th. So this is same day her car was found, 4/20/25. I responded to the Windy Point area reference to a check welfare call in which the reportee stated they had not seen the missing individual in several days and that the vehicle was located at Windy Point. We were originally told that the missing person was reported out of Tucson PD. However, it was noted that it was an event number only. I don't know what that means. It means we had limited information regarding the situation and the missing person. Additionally, it was learned that the husband was at a church in town. We had limited cell and MDC service at Windy Point. Therefore, Sergeant Goritz requested TPD. Go talk to the husband at the church. I don't know if that was accomplished, according to this officer writing this report. The vehicle was locked and had dark tinted windows. We did note that there was a purse and cell phone on the front passenger seat. We were told that there was only one set of keys for the vehicle and that the husband did not have it. We were told that he was being transported to Windy Point by a friend. At this point, I then contacted homicide sergeant to advise him of the information. So they did contact the homicide like right away. He said he was already aware of the call. I informed him that we would be using the Fourth Amendment medical exigency circumstance in order to gain access into the vehicle. True crime people know all about that exigency circumstances. The sergeant stated that at this point, CID would not be responding to the location. I don't know who CID is. I assume that's some type of acronym for the homicide unit. Once in the vehicle, all items were photographed in place and then also photographed as we searched them to include the purse, the back of the vehicle, the glove box, and any of the compartments in the vehicle. We also located a Garmin watch laying next to the phone. We know those have GPS. I noted the phone was powered off. When I turned it on, it had 2% battery remaining. Wow. That's unusual. How many people out there let their phone get down to 2%? So I wonder if she intentionally let it get down to 2% and then powered it off before she headed out of the car, or if it naturally ran down to 2% and shut off by itself. Different possibilities there. We placed the phone on a charger.
I think she took it off in the car, possibly. She had it fully charged and then it just, she left it in the car with the phone. That's my hunch.
Carolina, we're going to get to your question actually here in the police report before too long. So we don't have to wait till the end because the police will answer that through their interviews of witnesses whether or not she was a hiker or mountain climber. So they charged up the phone. Then he recontacted the homicide sergeant to let him know we had access to the phone due to the husband knowing the passcode. So the husband shows up, husband knows the passcode to the phone. It's been charged for a while. Is there any issue with us allowing the husband to gain access to the phone? The sergeant said it wouldn't be an issue. I also asked him if it's okay to give the phone and any property back to the husband unless something of evidentiary value was located. The homicide sergeant agreed to this. That's kind of a gray area right there. What is of evidentiary value? Like if something doesn't have something declarative in it, could it not also be considered of evidentiary value? Anyway, sidetrack, rabbit hole. We're not going down it right now. Deputy Raderink and I then went through the phone with the husband. So husband comes up there, a friend brings him up. He gives the passcode to her phone after it's been charged for a while. We went through the phone calls, WhatsApp, and text messages. The husband was able to say that he had contacted several other people that were on the phone list as well as the text message strings. He stated that he knew pretty much everybody on the phone and that she had contacted recently. There wasn't any activity after Friday. Deputy Raderink then opened the Notes app on the phone. All right, trigger warning, guys. Deputy Raderink then turned the phone to the husband and asked him what it said. Oh, there was one. I'm sorry, I skipped a whole line there, guys. He opened the Notes app on the phone and there was one note written in Chinese. Deputy Raderink then turned the phone to the husband and asked him what it said. We noticed a puzzled and startled look on his face. He then took the phone, looked at it, and stated, redacted, several times. I asked him to translate the message, but he did not respond and stared at the phone. After several minutes, we then asked the husband to sit in the friend's car so he could have some time to gather himself. The husband sat in the car for an extended period. Eventually, his family friend sat with him. During this time, I was standing nearby and observed that the husband still was not talking for an extended period. I then noted that he was talking with a family friend for a short period of time. So we see where this is going, right?
Yeah, he read the message, and I mean, just to see, I mean, are we allowed to speculate what it would be in the redacted, or is that kind of crossing the line?
No. It's purely speculation. I have that clearly
because
stated.
you said 3 times. To me, it would be no. That would be the thing that, like, if he just looked at something and it startled him, and you heard, and maybe it could have been no, something like that. And then he basically shut down after that. So
yep.
Anyway, sorry to stop you, but that's kind of what I was it written in Mandarin or Cantonese? Because people are asking me that, and do you know that?
He just says written in he just says written in Chinese, but we will there are more details on the language in another detective's report. Or
people are saying don't use Google Translate. Not use Google Translate, but I'm sure there was other people that spoke English and Chinese that were at the scene that could have helped the officers.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, if he had a friend, if he had a family friend that came up, right? Was the family friend versed in that, perhaps? But they do figure out what it says. I'll just spoiler alert. I Google Lens the message. Here you go. Just what the people were saying. I Google Lens the message and it translated to redacted. That is a long message. I then asked the family friend, okay, Google Translate. I then asked the family friend, we've just said this, asked the family friend who was referred to as Uncle Charles to translate the message if he was comfortable. Charles translating the message was virtually identical to what Google Lens stated. I then remade contact with the husband as he was still sitting in the car. He was able to talk at this time. I went over some of our previous conversations to see if he was willing and able to continue our discussion. I then asked him if he was able to provide me the translation of the note, at which point he did provide a translation. that closely matched what Charles and Google Lens had stated. So we have 3 different versions of it that are very similar. He did still appear to be upset during this time. I asked him what that meant to him, and he stated that he believed that she was possibly going to hurt herself. He stated he believed this due to the fact that she stated she redacted. He also mentioned that the message directed redacted. He did state what, and by the way, these redactions are from the Pima County Sheriff's Office. This is how the document came to me, but I probably also would have. There are actually a couple of things on here I thought about redacting, but I'm just giving it to you as it was given to me by the Sheriff's Office. We continued our conversation about his wife and her adventurous habits. I don't remember reading this. We continued our conversation about his wife and her adventurous habits, period. He stated that she was, quote, typical Chinese girl, and she was very afraid of everything outdoors. So this goes to that question about mountain climbing, hiking. He says her husband says she was afraid of everything outdoors. They had been to Mount Lemmon before, as well as Windy Point, but they had only walked past the bathrooms at Windy Point one time since she was afraid of heights. That's a pretty big statement right there. She was afraid of heights.
Yeah, that's
so I have my true crime speculation brain on right now. And I'm like, if you want to unalive yourself, do you choose to go to the highest point you've been to in a while with steep sides and you're terrified of or afraid of? It doesn't say terrified, it says afraid. Okay, I exaggerated. She is afraid of heights. Do you go and leap off of one of those?
well, and also, you know, I've heard, I mean, this is, I don't know if it's in the report, we'll find out, but I heard in a comment, so this is nothing to be taken that seriously, but she was not that confident in driving up a mountain, and I drove up the mountain, and many times it's really, you know, unless you're an experienced driver, you would be kind of a little bit leery about driving up by yourself, maybe, but that's just something else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll tell you this. I have the most frightening experience in my life, and I'm not afraid of heights. The older I get, the more I get vertigo when I look over the edge of something. So, you know, I'm a little more cautious than I used to be in my young days, but I'm not afraid of heights at all. The most terrifying experience of my life was driving down the Teton Pass the weekend before Thanksgiving from Wyoming into Idaho on that switchback road, with it being a little bit slippery. I was literally terrified, and I literally thought I could perhaps die just driving down that switchback road through the Teton Pass. So,
well, yeah, and then someone mentioned in the chat, you know, people's, you know, when people's state of mind changes, that does change how people maybe act. So that's always something to think about. So go ahead and continue. I don't know where we left off.
Yeah, your mental state can definitely affect and overcome your fear of certain things. Absolutely. Adventurous habits is where we left off. Afraid of heights. I asked her about her mental state. He stated that she had been blank, redacted, and upset due to not finding a job after graduating from U of A with a business of with a business of business with a master's of business. Oh, school of business with a master's of business. Okay. An MBA in December. He said she is here on a student work visa, and he believes it is good until January of 2026. I asked him if she took any type of prescription or OTC medications. He stated she takes blank. I asked him how often. He said she takes them often as she has trouble sleeping at night due to her redacted and being upset about not having a job. So she was clearly very, very upset, very worried about having a job. She was in a whole bunch of life changes, She just got her master's degree. She's not in school anymore. She has to go get a job. She's not around her friends anymore that she met and knew in school. Anyway, I asked when the last time she purchased her prescription. Probably, he stated he believed it was about a month ago, but he does not know where they are in the house since he did not pay attention to that. The field search efforts continued during this time. As it approached darkness, I made the decision to pull field search teams out due to the rugged and dangerous nature of Windy Point, as well as not having search and rescue volunteers walking along the roadway at night. Yep, that makes sense. Like, that's all standard search and rescue response, except in Delphi, but I won't go down that rabbit hole right now. That's a whole other animal, Tobe Lesenby. All right, so we went over this report on page 10 and 11. So we'll pick it back up on page 12. So we read our April 20th reports, and then we're going to go back to April 21st, the next day. I'm going to look at chat real quick. Hey, Leslie and Billy, good to see you in chat. Prescription can't be an antidepressant because you have to take them every single day. That's a good point, Jermaine. Yeah, there are lots of theories floating around in chat, and we'll when we get to the end of all of these reports, we'll some people will have answers, and we may have some questions still by the time we get to the end of this report.
Yeah, we got one question here. Why would you have a walking stick if you weren't an outdoorsy person? And I thought that same thing. Sounds like the husband is painting this. She's afraid picture to take the blame off himself. So some people are thinking that the husband is he wrote the note. He's making all this happen and did something. So people still think, even though all these signs are pointing that she had pretty severe depression. Is that what you're kind of hearing, Joe?
I would call it more of anxiety than depression, like situation.
Anxiety.
I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist. Right. I have no medical experience at all, just my own personal experiences. It sounds more like situational anxiety. Like all of these life changes that happened to her in December are just accumulating, and she's looking for a job and applying for a job. And we'll see a couple of reports about that in here too, about particular jobs that she might apply for.
Yeah, Crystal says, isn't it stressful for everyone when looking for work? Isn't it quite normal to complain to your friends about those struggles? So those are all normal things. Everybody handles it differently. So, but this is a kind of a running thing. Even before this report, I heard that she was stressed about not finding a job. And then also, having a green card, that could put an extra stress that if she doesn't find a job in a certain time, that might be in jeopardy. So,
right.
But yeah, you're right.
And if she graduated in December and her situational anxiety began, say, the beginning of the year, that increased every single job application she filled out that she didn't get. And that obviously, I believe, could probably evolve into depression. Like, I mean, and how long does that take? It's probably different for every person, but that probably is the end result, is like, if you keep getting rejected for jobs and your anxiety keeps increasing because you're on a student visa with a limited time. And he said he believed her visa was good until January of 2026. I think we'll see in one of these reports that somebody else believes differently. And I don't know what the answer is, but it's something to consider.
Says, yeah, that's exactly, that has something to do with, Mary says, well, did the police analyze their phone? If other people knew the password, like her husband, anything could have been done to her phone by someone else. So these are all just kind of speculations being thrown out there, but taking anti-anxiety medication to deal with uncomfortable situation makes perfect sense. So yeah, anyway, if you want to continue, oh, you can see those chats. Okay, good. All
Did I
right.
put that one up there? I can, but I don't always see every single one. So if you have something good in chat and I miss it, I apologize. Don't mean to do that, but I get caught up in my content and I get caught up in my own thoughts, and I'm like, I miss really good comments all the time.
Yeah, right. Salty says she was under pressure. So anyway, let us know if you guys have any ideas, anything we want to go over. But if you want to start reading that whenever you get it pulled up, because I do have some things here I found on a thread that I'll just read if you want me to read that while you're pulling that up, or are you ready to go?
Well, if it's appropriate for right now, go ahead and read what's in your thread.
I just Googled this. It was under this websleuth.com, and it said she graduated last year. I found there's a crowdfunding, so her family hired a private investigator. And then she did tell her husband that she needed some fresh air. That's what Chris knows. Some more information and interviews. Gazer said the week before her disappearance, Woo talked about struggles with finding a new job. With her
let's go ahead and let's go.
Wait, hold on. Let me finish this sentence real quick.
Yep.
Woo talked about her struggles with finding a new job. With her 90-day grace period coming to a close, international students on optional practice training are allowed a maximum of 90 days of unemployment during their OPT period without violating their status.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's good information. That's really good information. She was under a lot of pressure then, because if you think she graduated middle of December-ish, even the third week of December, so that's January, February, March. Her 90 days was up. She's into 120 days, right? That's good information.
Yeah, and this is not anything in some report. I found it on a website, websleuth.com. I can share the thread later. Somebody wrote it, and it was written. Tucson Spotlight is a community-based newsroom that provides paid opportunities for. Anyway, that's who wrote it. So somebody had some insight within that, and I'll share that later.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff. Right, Salty? Yep. They have more information than I do. It must be a great website if they have more information than I do. Just kidding. I make fun of myself all the time. Salty does too from time to time, and that's all right.
Well, it's a comment board, so people can post about something, and then people can just like a Reddit for. I mean, obviously, you guys probably know you're in the crime world, but yeah, I'll post that link up right now, actually, just so everybody can look at that.
All right, good deal. And I will keep reading this report because we got several pages to go. So Angela Gonzalez was a friend of Patricia's. She said Patricia had called 2 to 3 weeks ago and told Angela that she was really redacted and how she was struggling finding a job due to her immigration status and how she had a limited time. So that thing you just read is perfect for this lead-in. She had a limited time, but nothing was working out. Patricia talked to Angela about how she thought being in the U.S. would be a different lifestyle than in Hong Kong. So was it not a different lifestyle in the U.S.? I mean, you see reports, I've seen them about the Japanese lifestyle, how high pressured that can be. I wonder if it's a similar thing in the Hong Kong culture, in Chinese culture, where it's high pressure, especially for people in academics I can just imagine. Angela says that Patricia's husband was not supporting her, and she felt alone in the struggle with her visa. The last contact she had, oops, let's see if we can highlight that. No, I can't highlight that. The last contact she had was on April 8th, so that's 10 days before she disappeared, when she went over to dinner with her husband. So Angela went over to dinner with John and Patricia. This is a communication with the Associate Director of International Students at U of A. She basically had to contact the Chinese embassy right here. She contacted the Chinese embassy to let them know that they had a student that was missing. The last contact she had was April 10th. Here we go. Here's another red square rectangle. That's kind of a square almost. Probably not a perfect square. On April 20th. Oh, this is another April. Is this the one I missed before? No, this is page 14. So this is out of order too. This is April 20th. There was a check welfare on Mount Lemmon at Windy Point Lookout. The initial information stated reported friend missing. Deputy Ramirez and I, with search and rescue, responded. I requested DPS air rescue. That's Department of Public Safety, Arizona Department of Public Safety. We saw one of those experts testify in Lori Valadebo's trial, but it wasn't an air rescue expert. He was a ballistics expert. Department of Public Safety has to be a huge department with lots of employees. Assist as an air asset to perform a search of the area for our missing subject. I also requested to the Southern Arizona Search and Rescue Association. So I'm pretty sure that's a private organization that assists with search and rescue, to assist with drones and ground searchers in the area. Deputy Sloan had spoken to friends. She stated they had not seen Patricia since Thursday and called her in as a missing person with Tucson police. They had spoken with Patricia's husband and told them she went for a drive for some fresh air. So that's what we just heard. She went for a drive for some fresh air is what she told her husband. That is when they drove up the mountain and located her vehicle at Windy Point. We did receive information that she was despondent. I can't believe they didn't redact that. They've redacted so much. And was attempting to harm herself due to not having a job. Search teams, I guess despondent isn't a medical or psychological term. It's kind of a general condition. Kind of. Search teams were deployed into the area in an attempt to locate her as investigations continued. When DPS Air Rescue had to return to their hangar, the SARA drone team flew the areas of interest. It appeared that the vehicle had been there. So you can't have the drone and the helicopter up in the air at the same time. That could be no bueno. So the drone team had to wait till the helicopter team was done, and then they could fly their drones. It appeared the vehicle had been there since Friday due to the fact the windows were dirty from rain and snow on Saturday. The husband had traveled up to the mountain to meet with us, provide us with more information. A lost person questionnaire was completed by Deputy Harris. Information was gathered that she had been redacted for the last few weeks. We were able to get access into the vehicle, and her key was located on the front driver's side tire. Oh, snap. When she left, she put her key on the front driver's side tire. Her key fob, I assume it was a key fob based on that year and make and model of vehicle that they operate off of key fobs.
That's deliberated right there.
Yeah, it is. She didn't just like go to the bathroom and get abducted. Probably. I mean, and I guess if you go to the bathroom, you might not take your key with you, but 99% of the time, when you go to the bathroom, you take your car key with you, right?
Yeah, no, this is looking more and more like she was in a really bad state of mind, like the worst that in her mind, the worst it could be in her mind. That's just my after hearing what you're reading.
Intentionally leaving your vehicle key on her driver's side tire here we go. He says, is an indication she was not going to return.
Yeah, that's my first hunch.
Yeah. So if you look at my little outro clip with Charlie, we've been to lots of national parks and some state parks and done some walking around and hiking, and I can't remember ever leaving my vehicle key behind on my driver's side tire.
I mean, I have when I haven't had a pocket or something and I didn't want
Yeah,
to lose
right.
it.
Right.
You know what I
Did
mean?
her
Because if you
did her
if you're
pajama
out there,
did her yeah, that's a good point. Did her pajama
So,
bottoms have pockets on them or not? If her pajama
yeah.
bottoms didn't have pockets, yeah.
Well, and even about that, it's like if you lost it out there, you're not finding it. So I mean, it's not. It's odd. It's an odd thing to do, especially when she left her phone in the car, her purse in the car, and then the phone or her watch. Is that what you were saying? Was left
Yes,
there at
Garmin watch.
2%.
Yeah.
So if it was fully charged and she had it on that day, and then she decided to take off that watch, right? Then she would by the time they found it, it would be at that 2%. So if that's kind of saying she had it on, in my
No, I
opinion.
think her phone was at 2%, not her watch. Her phone was at 2%.
Okay. And then okay.
Well, but she might have left that on, and it might have been slowly draining out to 2%. While they were finding it, while they were looking for her and finding the
the key
car and the
fob,
contents.
yeah, on the
Yeah.
tree, on the tire, and then there are some people in the chat that are not buying. They think it's all staged. That she had been thinking this all out. That this is what I'm thinking. They're thinking is that this is all staged. That she wanted to bring the car up and she wanted to trick everybody by putting the key fob on the tire, by taking leaving the watch there and the hiking stick in the car. So some people are thinking that somebody's staged all this for her to disappear. That's also speculation, which it could be. But I think, in my opinion, it's just her state of mind, and you keep going back to that of how what was the word, despondent she was, and then I just read that 90-day thing, which you didn't know that, so that's kind of new information. 90 days. So in her mind, and we got a lot of this immigration stuff going on. In her mind, she's thinking maybe they're going to just come snatch her away tomorrow. Right.
Yeah.
I'm speculating. So nothing is, all speculating.
Yeah. And it's still an unsolved mystery. And what this police report does. And honestly, when I read the cover page of this police report and it says, do not disseminate outside of law, the investigation agency, I was like, do I really want to do this? But we're getting more information and the public is becoming more educated through this as to her state of mind, as to the state of her, what her husband's statements were, what her friend's statements were, what was left in the car.
That's another good question. Somebody said, yeah, what was it like in the car, and how was her drive seat? Because I don't think she was that tall, so she would have been way pushed forward. So was the seat in the same position? Some people are thinking that she was kidnapped, and so they're thinking that. So
spoiler alert, that comes up in a later page.
Well, I'm waiting for it, so let's go.
All right. But we also saw in one of the very first pages we looked at, one of the officers that responded on that day at that time said, is it okay if we turn the phone and purse and car back over to the husband? They turned it over to the husband like almost immediately.
Yeah, I think in their mind they had
they formed an opinion. They formed an opinion about what happened, and they're like, all we got to do now is find the body.
Well, and we don't know what that message said, right? And it could have been something to throw everybody off. I mean, if you're that contrived, that you're, creating messages in your notes tab that someone's going to read to stage your disappearance. But I think basically that message, what she said, and his reaction of whatever he reacted, and then that's what led them to believe that, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking
Right.
too?
Right. But if so, let's assume that message was some sort of a self-harm note. And we know, based on language of pages we've seen before already, it was some sort of clue that she was intending self-harm. Then that's where their minds went, like, immediately. And they're like, they could have been, I'm not saying all of them were, but they could have been, and it could be an inclination for some law enforcement officers to be like, okay, we know what happened. Now we're just going to get evidence to support that. And then, we'll search for the body. And if we don't find it, then, whatever happens next happens. And I'm just speculating. I'm not saying that's what happened.
Lots of speculation.
I'm saying,
exactly.
I'm saying we've seen in a lot of cases, very, very high profile cases, that law enforcement can have a tendency, and I'm not saying that's Tucson or Pima County Sheriff's Office, can have a tendency to frame their evidence around their theory of what happened. It happens.
Yeah, it's normal human behavior. You know what I mean? Obviously, in some situations when there's so many things that are leading that way. But I'm interested to hear, because I'm kind of along the same lines of what they would have thought based on what you've reported. Other people in the chat, if you read the chat, are thinking that things were planted, and her husband had somebody says she was not in that car, so people don't even think that she drove that car up there. So it's open. Yeah, it's interesting. But go ahead and finish. Where you
well, all right. So we saw the vehicle with the watch, person, wallet inside the phone. Vehicle is photographed. The husband did have the password for the phone. Opened the phone, and that was videotaped with an Axon body camera. There might be another potential FOIA request in there. But would it really give us clues? No, we're not going to have any more clues that are in this report based on that Axon body camera, because they're going to redact the contents of whatever was on that phone. We're not going to see what was on that phone. It's going to be redacted. As we were investigating the phone, we opened the notes app. First note was in Chinese, and her husband looked at it, and he said, longer redaction this time than the last redaction. So I'm curious what this officer said he said versus what the last one did, because this is like twice as long as the other redaction. Deputy Ramirez asked what that said. Hold on. Deputy Ramirez asked what that said, and he just shut down and didn't tell us anything. Deputy Ramirez used Google Translate for the message, and it stated redacted. The search continued until 8:30 p.m. when it got dark, 20-30 hours, and was no longer safe to continue the search. The personal belongings of Patricia were given to the husband. Alrighty then, guys. This is an active investigation of a missing person. When you have enough sense to call the homicide detective, and the homicide detective on call says, yeah, we're not going to respond to it, and then you see the message in the phone and you believe it and you give the belongings back to her, I have a problem with that. This is still an active investigation. This is April 20th. This is the day that the car was found, and you're giving her personal belongings to the husband. The vehicle was driven to
a little soon.
The vehicle was driven to the base of the mountain and parked at the Rincon substation for the husband to pick up when he was in a better position to do so. In other words, he got driven up there by, okay, wait a second. What do you mean when he was in a better position to do so? So I was first thinking when I read this report that the husband drives himself up there to meet with the police. But we saw in an earlier page, a family friend drove him up. And I
Yeah, I'm
understand,
sure he would have a family friend if he's distraught. He wouldn't drive up there alone. He
right,
would, yeah.
right. But logistically, it's possible for him to drive the car home. You know, was this their shared car? Did they only have one car? Did he get a ride up there because they didn't have another car, or because he was despondent, or because he was,
I'm
you know,
sure they
so
have
much
two
in so
cars.
much shock? Yeah,
I wouldn't
I'm
think,
sure they
I
probably
mean,
did.
assuming.
Yes, I'm assuming too. Probably so.
Yeah.
And that was my first thought
Listen
was,
to
well,
the
he
comments
drove
here.
himself up. Okay, let me check comments.
Okay, let's get in the comments because I don't want people to I don't want to miss any points because they are bringing up some talks about cameras, which that's been the big request from the missing person page is they want cameras. If anyone had any webcams, dash cams from the April 18th, and then also anybody like who had those ring cameras along the way. But I asked the officer, the SAR search and rescue team, and there's no cameras on Windy Point.
We're going to see cameras retrieved towards the end of this.
Okay.
There is one place that there are cameras. We're gonna see that later. I got you. Y'all are asking such great questions. I got to give spoiler alerts before we even get to the pages.
Yeah. So there's one Carolina. If you wanted to read that one. So I'm getting that the LEs went off of everything the hubby told him. So her husband staged the appearance. Could it be that she didn't even walk off on her own? So, and yeah, as far as checking the home, because her home was in TPD, but her car was found in the sheriff's jurisdiction. That means there's two different agencies that are on this. Is that right, Joe?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I did request FOIA request public records from Tucson PD, and they have not responded to those yet. This is our first document we've got back in this case. It's hot off the press, and I can't believe we got it. But it gives us lots of clues, and it's good public information.
Yeah. So whenever you get a minute, you go over the comments because I think.
Keep pointing them out to me as we get to them, because there's some really good comments and I'm paying attention to the comment.
Yeah,
like
Bob
I said.
says, and Bob is very well versed in this kind of stuff. He's a really good researcher. He's been helping me on another case. Bob says they've already determined that this was not, and he capitalized, not a crime, a little premature on many levels. Pammy says someone else's DNA, etc., was just introduced into the car. So yeah, other people now are getting into the car because it's been released. So that's contaminated. This is like the police messing up for Gabby Patino. Is it the friend that works on Mount Lemmon? Does anyone know he has a friend that works up there now?
I've seen that comment twice now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Should be cameras on the business. There's not a lot of businesses when you're going up this road. There's actually none. So I asked the guy why they don't have cameras, and he was like, "Oh, well, it would just be too expensive."
No, Bob, I would. That was not downloaded. There's no way that was downloaded. They just drove the car down the hill and then just left it there for the husband to pick up. There was no evidence collected from that. And even the evidence they could have collected, her phone, her purse, her walking stick, DNA swabs, but her personal belongings, they just said were returned back to the husband.
Yeah, everything got returned. Jamin says husband said she takes her RX as needed when she has insomnia. I've been prescribed every antidepressant, and that's not how they work at all. And so that area is under the sheriff. So yeah, the sheriff has the Mount Lemmon because the car was found there, and the TPD has the case because that's where she was living in, I believe, off of like Fort Lowell and Oracle area. I don't know exactly. Nick, does her husband have an alibi for that night? We don't. I will find out if anything's in the report.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be just that night. It can be at any time during that day. They could have gone up there during the day. Like, did they check his work records? Was he at work all day that day? Because he was at work. He went to work in the morning and he came home at night. Was he at work for that entire day? Like, that would have probably had to been Tucson PD that investigated that. So, like Salty said, when two agencies, have conflicting jurisdictions, one of them has to take the lead. I wonder if one of them took the lead in this.
Angela says, I'm pretty sure there's a camera by the bathroom, and I asked the SRI official, and he said there's no cameras up there at all. Samantha Wood says they literally have to come down from the mountain when they get a call in that town. That's how stretched thin they are. Christina is talking about he has a friend that works up there at the observatory. So she thinks, or she knows a clue, or something, that the husband has a friend that works on the mountain. There is cameras at Windy Point. Samantha's saying there is cameras. I have heard that there's not. So, that's not Windy Point. That is Bigelow. That's Bigelow. Carolina Hurtado, is the FBI looking into her disappearance? Were there any reports of past or present DV in the marriage? Nothing about that, but other than he wasn't as supportive as I think that was something how you phrased it at the beginning. He wasn't supportive, someone said.
Yes. Yeah. That one of her friends said that she told her that, which doesn't mean that he's guilty of unaliving her. But I mean, because that's common among husbands. A lot of husbands aren't supportive. And that culture may be worse. I mean, we all have our
in the culture, and we haven't really brought that up, for lots of reasons of the differences of like American culture, Chinese culture, Japanese, Russian culture. Everyone has their own intricacies, and so there are some things I know within the Asian culture, like you said, that they're just different in how they operate in marriages and things like that. Is that kind of what you think too, Joe?
Yeah. Yep. That's
we do have a compliment. We got Hoi Jay. He said, you guys are great. Thank you for doing this. So appreciate that. And thank you to Joe for really helping me dig deep and doing what he does. Thank you, Hoi Jay.
awesome. Appreciate it. I love good feedback. Right. That's it. Saying culture would be painting with a very broad brush. I agree, which is why I've tried to refrain from it. I'm trying not to go there. But there are cultural differences.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to bring up, but yeah, everybody kind of knows that's, something. Bob is talking about, did the TPD contact her cell phone provider's information? And you talked about they looked at who she called last. At the beginning, you mentioned they went over who she called last, and the husband agreed that they were all people that they knew. Is that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, he was. So we know that she texted him last a little bit after noon that day. He had gone to work in the morning. She texted him a little bit after noon, and that was the last text he got from her. But when he looked in her phone, he said, I recognize all these people in her phone, and these are all her normal contacts. He didn't see any unusual contacts in her phone, is what the husband reported to Pima County Sheriff's deputy that was there.
Angela's asking if they did fingerprinting. I don't think they did, because
I don't think they did either.
No, I think in their mind, after they read whatever was in that note, the whole investigation changed. If you notice, that's where I see the big change of the homicide people were coming up, and then they read the note, and boom, here's the car. Hey, we're gonna start searching. You can go home, and it was like, so that's kind of the tipping point of of where, like you were saying, they might have assumed something, and they might be right on their assumptions, but they might be wrong. But that's where I think when they read that message, the investigation tone changed.
Yep. Yep. I can literally see two officers standing off to the side and saying, guess what? I just saw the phone, and what that translates at is the other guy's, oh yeah, okay, we know what happened. Like, I'm not saying that happened.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I can see it in my mind that
Right.
that's how it went down.
And Nick, the Nick in the chat, if you put his chat up, Nick worked at Ski Valley for like 5 years. And so he does have some knowledge about, I mean, he actually ran the ski lift at the mountain. So shout out Nick. But was there a life insurance policy? That we don't know. What was the husband's name? We can get that. Are they saying culture would be okay? You already read that one. There was one I wanted to read, but that looks to be great. Great comments. This is really helping, I think. So thanks for. The husband didn't report her missing. The husband had the password to the phone. Could have easily wrote the message. So anyway, if you want to continue on, let's move on to the next spot.
Yeah. All right.
We're hitting these comments.
This is a good back and forth between comments and the document. It's working out. It's given us a lot to think about and a lot of unanswered questions. So this is April 21st. This is the day after I made contact with a female named Flora Lau Hayuquan. Talked to her friend on February 28th. So that's 2 months before almost. Flora said Patricia was happy because she was moving to Phoenix for a new job she had applied for. And in the process of selling her home. That's interesting. This is what she's telling
2024, though, right?
No,
Or
this
January?
is no, February 28th of 2025.
February 28th.
So 2
So
months
this-
before
yeah.
the incident.
Okay,
2 months less a
before.
week. Yeah, month and a half to 2 months. So she had a conversation with her friend Flora. She said she was happy. She's moving to Phoenix. They were selling their house, which just because she tells her friend that doesn't mean that that's actually what was happening, right? They had lunch together. Flora said she spoke. Here's the highlighted part. Flora said she spoke to Patricia's husband today. That's April 21st, the day after they found the car, through a Chinese texting app called Wii, and that his vibe was really off and did not seem as concerned for his wife missing. Flora said she asked Patricia's husband if he was okay, but he was calm the whole time and mentioned to Flora that Patricia was seeing a redacted. Flora was shocked because she seemed happy. So that doesn't mean that he's guilty. That just means her friend thinks that her husband is off. Maybe they should look at her husband. That's basically what I read from that. Doesn't mean he's guilty. It just means that one of her friends who she hasn't talked to in a couple of months, and maybe it was one of those that was at the U of A with her that she missed after she left the U of A and no longer was in that community, that academic community. I'm going to go ahead and read the next paragraph too, even though I didn't highlight it. John told Flora that he was good and he never asked questions about Patricia, and told Flora the following. Oh man, I should have highlighted this. How did I miss this? Patricia's husband told Flora that he was good and he never asked questions about Patricia, and told Flora the following. I'm sure there is justice in the world. If you're in emotional distress, I recommend you talking to someone more senior or older with wisdom about how to get through this crisis. Flora said that Patricia's husband told her that when Patricia went to see the, I'm going to guess like therapist,
Right.
psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, the doctor, they prescribed her vitamins. What?
Vitamins.
Okay. I don't know how much, I'm just going to say, I don't know how much accuracy weight to put in Flora's statements here right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of talking. I mean, she
Yep.
hadn't talked to her in 2 months before that. But
Right. Patricia's
Next
husband also
comment,
told Flora
too.
that maybe someone senior can give her answers. Flora told me that she met Patricia's husband a couple times, but he was always reserved and quiet. Okay, that matches another comment previously and would not say much. Is powerful and influential Chinese family. Flora said she does know that Patricia's husband holds a EB-5 visa, which is a special type of visa, and she has some experience working in international admissions. All right. That's an interesting statement from somebody who is casting doubts on the husband, which a lot of people do in that case. And sometimes it pans out and sometimes it's
well, the husband,
not.
what was the statement he talked about people should, did he say that people should talk to elders? Is that something the husband?
She said that he said that. So she said she
Okay.
called him today, which is April 21st, which is the day after the car was found and 3 days after she was missing. She says that he said, if you're in emotional distress, I recommend talking to someone senior or older with wisdom.
So in his mind, right, he has convinced that she has ended things, right, in my opinion. And that's why he's not going to be that frantic about somebody kidnapped her or she's missing, because in his mind, whatever message she typed, he understood that to be some sort of finality. That, and I'm speculating, right? I'm just like you guys, but that's why if he has made up his mind that that's what happened to her, then and he's telling people this to go get their mental health checked and talk to elders. I mean, it would be
It's a
really smart.
reasonable,
Yeah.
that's a reasonable narrative, right? If you're the widower of someone who unalived themselves, then, talk to people about getting some help,
And he's a professor, man. I mean, I hate to put, I mean, I know anyone can do anything, but this guy, he's a pretty well respected person, right? He's like the leader of the, if he's a professor, and obviously pretty smart, um, not a typical person you would think would come up with this contrived event to have someone, you know, especially, but there's always that small chance. But my speculation based on what I just heard too, and he's telling people to get their mental health check, is because he believes that that's what happened, right? So that's where I'm kind of left, even though other people think, and that's what's great. What we're doing, we're going to hopefully have a little more.
Yeah, we can all find some clarity on this together, but right now I have as many questions as I did before. So when I first read this document, I was where the Pima County Sheriff's Department was. I was like, all right, she's in a bad state of mind. She was thinking about harming herself. Self-harm was mentioned in this, literally in this document. Like that's what happened. But as of right now, we don't have any answers yet. And
Well, and I did hear somebody mention something about in the Asian culture, there's this thing, and I don't know what it is, and I didn't even want to look it up but maybe somebody else could, where people just walk away into the forest. They just walk. It's a thing in the Asian culture. And I'm not saying speculating that's what happened, but someone commented that, and I actually had heard about it previous, so that's why I'm bringing it up. It's something that is known in the Asian culture, where when they're distraught and they'll just go out into the forest and never come back. It's some sort of thing. So people, maybe if you want to look that up, or if anyone has heard of anything about that, but that's something that I was kind of weirded out about a little bit.
Yeah, but if you were to send a search and rescue team into that forest, you'd probably get some hits with your HRD dogs, right?
Well, not necessarily, because that's what I'm going to say at the end here when we're done with this, of my my hypothesis, but we're not going to get too far in of why she hasn't been found if she's still up there. So, but we'll go over that at the end when we close out.
All right, sounds good. Next page, supplemental phone call. The last time she talked to the victim, the victim mentioned moving to Scottsdale, which you could say is Scottsdale, Phoenix, basically same area. So those could be consistent stories. And sell their house in Tucson. She got a job offer from some company that was hired by the Department of Defense and would sponsor her green card. Also, the husband was quiet, worked for some optic company. Oh, so she met him at Arizona State, but he works for an optic company? That's weird. Because I know that I saw in one of the prior pages they met at when she was in school. I'm pretty sure at school, but he works for an optic
There's Arizona
company.
State down here too. People can go online now and go to Arizona State wherever. So
Right, but how do you meet somebody that's going to the same school? I'm pretty sure they met at U of A.
Okay.
Or they met through U of A, maybe. I may have to go back and rewatch that now. But he worked for some optic company that only hires Chinese people. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. They went to school together. People are saying the husband was a professor. Is he a part of the U of A? Professor at the U of A? I don't have confirmation on
I
that.
assumed that he could. So people that work in the private industry can be adjunct professor, meaning they can come in and teach a couple of classes if they have the educational background and the knowledge and expertise to teach a specific class. They can be an adjunct professor. So it's possible that he worked for an optics company and he was also an adjunct professor, which is where he met her. Just a thought. One possibility of the multitude of scenarios that we're presented with here.
Yeah, where did we hear that he was a professor?
I didn't hear that. I assumed that because if he's going to work at 8:30 in the morning and not getting home till 6 o'clock at night, I thought that he was a full-time professor, but maybe he works for an optics company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they both graduated from U of A and he probably got a job for the
okay.
optics. So yeah, I don't think let's throw the professor thing out, but he obviously was well educated, and he got the job and she didn't. Or not the job, but he's working and she's not working. So that does have something to put into the relationship.
That tracks better
as well.
Yeah, that tracks better. That definitely tracks better than the thought that he
Thank
was
you,
like
Angela.
a professor of some kind. Yeah.
Searchers used drone in the sky and nothing was found, leading to believe she wasn't out there. Now that's what I'm going to talk about in the end because, well, let me just pull it up since we're in case anyone has to leave. My speculation is that area has been searched. I have a map that I can share later, so I know how much it's been searched by the SAR, whatever SAR team. Yeah, that's it. I know, but what I speculate is that she might have walked farther away from where our search areas were. Right? Because if you started walking, right, and you wanted to disappear or something like that, or your Windy Point is pretty populated. Even if it's a Friday afternoon, it's pretty populated. So if she wanted to, as Joe would say, unalive herself, maybe she walked far away from Windy Point, 1 or 2 miles outside of Windy Point. And so the search has been concentrated so in that area that my hunch is if she's up there that she walked 1 or 2 miles another way and maybe not jumped, maybe just walked until she just, and this is speculation, until she just couldn't go anymore. That is my speculation, and that's why I think that, in my opinion, the search away from the Windy Point area, but if you were to look in other areas. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I can see that because when we get into the search and rescue details of the aerial assets and the HRD K9 units, the SAR units, it looks to me like they concentrated on a certain area. And I'm the mountain is huge. Mount Lemmon is huge. Like she could have gone anywhere in 2 days. And we don't know where she went.
Well, I mean, I was just up there. A lot of people haven't been up there. And so if I parked where she did and I just decided to walk away from that area, right? Where I was
Yeah.
telling you before, where you go down below and we were flying the drone, so we had a better connection. There's another area that someone pulled off and all of a sudden they disappeared and they were up the mountain. So there's all these little parking spots, there's little hiking spots that aren't right at Windy Point. And so it would take me 15 minutes to walk to where that place is, but it's like about a mile away, essentially. So if she just started walking away from Windy Point and then decided to go off on a path one day, she could literally be within a 5 or 10 mile radius of that area if she's up there. But there are people in the chat that are willing to bet their last dollar that the husband, he did it. He contrived this whole thing, and and that he's so. I mean, that's what this report is bringing. It's bringing both sides.
We have such a smart chat. We have people talking about crows and buzzards, and we have 2 different police officers in a couple of pages that talk about bird activity, and one saw some and one didn't see some, and so they went to go
There's
investigate.
a lake up there too. At the top of Mount Lemmon, there's a lake. Andrea says, "Thank you for doing this. Appreciate the shout out." Kill. Yeah, and when I was up there, I did see some too. But if you watched my video where I was in the cave, which I don't think you have, but once you get past that area, I mean, it is just a drop off. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's really steep area, Windy Point. The other areas as you go around there might not be as steep as that, right? Because that's like the top of the little peak of that area.
Right. Yeah. Hold on. StreamYard. Gosh darn it. Why is that always on the way?
People are saying, yeah, they're thinking that, the husband contrived this whole thing and he drove the car up there. He parked it. There was no trace.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
People are
if you did find,
he's still, go ahead.
If you did find his DNA and fingerprints in there, though, I mean, it's a family car. Like that's not going to prove anything. So you'd have to find some way, like work records, like check clocking in and clocking out of work type of thing. So here's Windy Point. That's where she was parked right here. And then I think this is the little pull off. So you're going downhill, downhill, downhill. There's a little pull off right there. There's another one.
Keep going. It's right when you go around the turn. There's a big turn, and then it
right there.
Yeah, that one. Right there. So we parked there, and then about a mile up the road towards Windy Point is another little hiking area that people they parked and they walked right up into the mountain. I was like, and they disappeared. I was like, holy cow, where'd they go? And so I didn't even know about this area. But
wow,
that would be like, if you just decided to start walking down the road, and we never went over the topic of Friday. If she were to get up there at about, say, 2, 3, or 4 o'clock, right? How many people would be up there on a Friday Easter weekend at 2 or 3 o'clock on a Friday? Most people are working, so it's not like a Saturday where it would be more populated.
Right. So let's look at page 21, because there are other people that were there, and page 21 of the document talks about that and gives us some more clues. We'll skip over some more of these officers' reports that are kind of confusing to me at times, but also helpful at times.
Yeah, Kelt says there's residents in Rose Canyon Lake, and there are people that live on the mountain that might be pretty shady because they're homeless. Not in a bad way, but they live on the mountain and they kind of move around and stuff. And so there's speculation of things like that that is a possibility. Nick,
People did see something.
Nick, he used to work up there, so you can, why don't you put his comment up?
Yeah.
Yep. So lots of cars and stuff. What was that one comment?
So was somebody in that car when it went over the edge? Like, did they recover a body out of that?
There's lots of cars that go over the edge there.
Right, but with people inside or without people inside? Like, is that the area you go to ditch your car if you're done with it, or do you accidentally go over the edge and they recover your body and leave your car there?
Lots of accidents happen on that road. Lots of them. Just even actually the day that I was going down the mountain, there was a city Pima County truck that hit the guardrail and went down.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh darn.
And, I mean, it's a very, lots of turns.
Here we go. We'll go up the hill with it. We'll go up the hill with you. How's this sound?
Perfect.
I don't think I can expand it any more than that. So you're going to have to zoom in, people.
But from what I heard, there's all kinds of hiking trails all around this area. So where I went hiking, which is like the more popular spot because it has views and stuff, that's where most people go if you want to just like have.
That's the parking spot right there. That first white car that you see, that's the parking spot where her car was found.
Yep. Now, right in front of this sign, you can go that way and hike too. Like there's hiking spots all across the road. Let's check the chat. There's homeless people at Rose Canyon, and that's the one thing that they asked for, is if anybody had any webcam of that day, and nobody has come forward that I've heard. But yeah, I don't know how much farther Windy Point is. Nick would know. From Windy Point to the top of Mount Lemmon, but we're still, everyone's jumping to conclusions. The worst case scenario, this happened, homeless people live like the worst thing happens, but in the reports we keep hearing about her state of mind, right? That's a big piece to the puzzle. And then we're leading up to, she has a message in her phone that her husband read, and this has been, and people had mentioned she was distraught, right, in the days leading up to this. So I mean, it would be really, I guess, that's where my mind is just keep leading, is she was not in a good state of mind. And to think that her husband would have had to pull all this stuff out and make it happen, and it's the perfect crime now for him, right? Everyone's thinking he just got away with it in their mind. They're betting their bottom dollar that he did it, people are saying. And it's like, I don't have anything that's pointing to him. I literally, other than him just not being like we want him to be, Like there's nothing that says anything that he's responsible, or that's just my opinion. What is yours, Joe?
He's just odd, and there are just some odd things, and odd things doesn't mean that he's guilty and he did it. It just means that I'm still trying to puzzle it out. And if I'm still trying to puzzle it out, the Pima County Sheriff's Office should also still be trying to puzzle it out. But you know what? They gave evidence back to him. They gave her personal belongings and her car back to him same day. So how are they ever going to puzzle it out if he's the one that did it? There's no way they're ever going to be able to prove it because they gave away the evidence. They didn't test it. They didn't check it. They didn't get fingerprints or DNA. Like
all that stuff is, like I said, I think the assumption that we don't know is what was in that message, and that led them to believe and everybody to believe that something else happened. And so what everybody is suggesting that thinks that he might have something to do with it is that he would have known that they would have read this message and believed him that she wrote this message, believed her and that this is how they would interpret everything to make it seem like she did this to get him out of any sort of it. And that's just a little far-fetched to me.
Yeah, and we've seen some new clues, like a couple of messages from her friends, and we have to know that her friends' messages are going to be biased in some way towards her and against anybody else that they think might be responsible, like her husband. But she sounded like she had prospects for a new job in either Scottsdale or Phoenix or that area, and they were going to sell their home. But if he has a job in Tucson that he got after he graduated, how willing is he going to be to move to Phoenix, Scottsdale? Like, does he have to go through some type of a transfer, to a different office in the same company? Does he have to get a different job? Or is he going to be like, no, we're not moving. You get a job here. I'm staying here. I'm living here. I'm not selling the house. We're not selling the house. I just graduated and I got a job. I've got a good job with a communications company. So you couldn't get a job with the same communications company, get another job. I mean, those are all dynamics. Could be. I'm not saying that's what happened, but those are things that go through our mind when we try and figure out the dynamics and where they were all at in their life. And if that's the way he was, if he's like, I'm the man of the house, we're keeping this house, we're living in Tucson, and she was despondent about that and her visa and her lack of job prospects. I mean,
yeah, the 90-day thing might be, if she was thinking that she was going to be sent back to China, and then, not having any contact with any friends. So in my mind, she's kind of socially isolated now after school.
Yeah.
And that's why I just keep leading back to her state of mind versus anything like really, heinous that some people are suggesting.
But when you're in that kind of a state of mind, you can make yourself vulnerable to foul play. You can become vulnerable to it. Number one, you're in a different country and you're maybe not aware of where dangers can come from. And number two, you're in an altered emotional state. You may be less aware of dangers that are coming at you. So if foul play happened by, say, a third party, say it wasn't her husband, say it was somebody up on Windy Hill, she might have been more vulnerable to it than.
Yeah, no, that's
usual.
always a possibility. Like I said, that's always a speculation of, hey, this, but that's just also could be
it's speculation.
There's not anything pointing up there that
no.
And like you said, that would, yeah. So
all right, let's keep reading this report.
Documents? Okay, good.
No, let's keep reading. This one is an important one. This is somebody else that was up there that day. This is a really important eyewitness testimony. This is the police officer was assigned as a school resource officer. He was approached by a student. So if he's a school resource officer, that means at a high school. So he was approached by a high school student who advised that she believed She had possibly seen the missing person up on Mount Lemmon. She said that she and her boyfriend were up there on Friday, May 18th or April 18th, which is when Patricia went missing, from about 4:30 as they were watching the sunset. She described it being very cold and windy, and there were a lot of people who stopped by. So yeah, it's an elevation that can get cold and windy at 7,000 feet. And there's probably still snow on the north slopes at that time of year. People who stopped by and would get out of their vehicle for approximately 2 minutes to take photographs, but then move on due to it being cold. She said there was another vehicle that caught her attention, which was a white SUV that pulled into a space behind her. She described it as being maybe a Jeep, but was unsure of the make and model. She described it was pointing out towards the west, and the other vehicle parked on the east side of the road as what she described as being the back part. There was a female subject who was by herself, and she was acting erratically as she had been running around the vehicle and opened the trunk at one point before running up the hill on the east side of Windy Point Vista and then coming back down. The woman arrived somewhere between 1945 to 2000 hours. So
Wait
that's
a
7.
minute. Holy,
Yeah.
this is huge right here. This is the nugget right here, man. Wait, can you read that again?
Yep. Hold on. Let me turn on my camera. So there was another vehicle. Let's go down to the bottom of this. She was acting erratically as she had been running around the vehicle and opened the trunk at one point before running up the hill on the east side of Windy Point. So that's the right side, as we were just looking, and then coming back down. The woman arrived somewhere between 7:45 and 8 o'clock. After the lady came back down from the east side of the hill, she then went out into the Windy Point Vista lookout. She went to the lookout where the rocks were past the bathrooms, and she was alone. After she saw the lady go there, she did not see her go back to her vehicle or leave the area. They were there for approximately 45 minutes before they left, and after she saw the information on the news, she realized it may have been the girl she saw. The lady was wearing a dark top and light colored pants, but could not tell if it was a hoodie because it was dark, and was unsure if it was a phone or flashlight she was carrying, and did not get a good look at her.
Holy. That's a key piece of and so you're saying at 8:30 at night?
Between 7:45 and 8 o'clock is when she arrived. So yes, when she did this, it would have been between 8 o'clock and 8:30. So it's dark at that point.
It's dark. Yeah, it's dark.
Yeah.
So she didn't even, so she was all over town, right? In my opinion, from if she let, people have had to have seen her that day in town. Because if she didn't arrive up to the mountain until that time, where was she the entire Friday before she disappeared? Like her did she use her debit card at all? And so people, I mean, if this is her, people see her frantically in a frantic state of mind, right? I mean, that's not normal. That is really that's a red flag right there.
She described it as erratic behavior. She was running around her car erratically.
Yeah, I mean, my heart is like sinking right now, man.
So if it's not Patricia, okay, I'm just going to throw this secondary theory out there. If that's not Patricia, if she saw some other lady out there about the same time as she was out there and it's about to be sunset, maybe some lady is trying to get a picture of the sunset, but not, I think 8 o'clock is like way late for the sunset, right? Well, but if you're up, okay. So Windy Point Vista
doesn't even face the sunset.
Well, it does to the west.
Yeah,
it does to the
Yeah,
west. There's actually, but and if you're at 7,000 feet and Windy Point Vista is at 7,000 feet,
it's 6,000.
and everything, Yeah, whatever
But
it
yeah,
is. And I
no,
have, damn it, my terrain won't work. I got to prove you wrong because I saw 7,000 feet. But we'll get to that later when my terrain works. But 6,000, 7,000, you're way up above ground level. So sunset does happen later than like normal ground level sunset in Arizona. You can see
well,
that
you
at
wouldn't want to
Grand.
be walking out there when it's getting too dark. I
No,
mean, if it's dark, you're
no.
not gonna go. You can still walk out there and like, because if you saw that photo, there's like this huge open area, and then it kind of drops off into little different like hiking trails, like off the beaten path, kind of, so to speak. So if you're in the middle, you can kind of have this open area and not really, you can be seen, everybody sees you, and then as you go off. So yeah, that's I didn't yeah, I'm glad that you
That's a big
spotted
page
that,
there
because
right
I have
there.
not heard
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna review it real quick on Google Earth Pro. So she parks right here in this spot right next to the crosswalk. She may have backed in because she said the high school student said they had parked over here and she was right behind them. So they probably parked right next to the crosswalk too. But she runs around the car. She opens the trunk. She goes up the east side is what she said. So there's some kind of a trail there on the east side.
Yeah, that's what I
All
was
right.
saying. There's a trails all over, so you can go hike on both sides.
So she parks right here in that empty spot. And then she goes up the east side. And this is at night, so the sun's setting, so it's not nearly this light out. Oh, so she probably goes up there and then she comes back. And I think after she comes back from running up this side, that's when she frantically runs around her car. But then she goes west. She goes to the west side of it. So if it's not Patricia, it's somebody that's like, oh shit, I'm missing the sunset, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Come on. Why won't this pan? There we go. So then she comes over here and there's like places over there, like maybe you see where there's somebody way out there.
That's exactly. That's the rock area that you can it's all open and you can get a great view, and it's just all open.
Right. There's somebody standing out there on the top of that. So maybe that's where she headed after she frantically ran around her SUV a couple times. She opens the trunk for some reason. Is she looking for her camera? So she went up the east side. She's like, oh shit, I don't have my camera. She comes back down, then she runs to the west side so she can get because the sunset's in the west. So that's where the sunset's happening, right? Or where that person's standing is probably a pretty good view. All speculation, guys. We don't know.
Well, when you're saying when she gets her camera, the lady who described how this lady is acting does not say anything about getting a camera and she's getting.
No, she opens the trunk for some reason, though. What's she opening the trunk for? That's my point.
Well, whatever it is, the whole point is she's acting very erratic. Like if you pull up in a mountain area and somebody's freaking out, acting erratic, running around their car, that doesn't sound like someone that's looking to just go take a picture of the sunset. That looks like someone that's having a breakdown to me. And then they run up the mountain and then they come back and they run over here and they disappear. And I didn't hear anything about a camera. So I get what you're saying to kind of level the playing field. But to me, she was in a having a mental breakdown at that point, if that was her, allegedly, if that was her. And she could have came back to her car because that was the last time the people seen her. But what I'm telling you is I think she's still up there, and she ran like in this erratic state and just kept running. At some point she got lost, and it's not going to be right at Windy Point. It's going to be 2-3 miles away from Windy Point in some other direction.
Yeah, there are lots of possibilities, and that is probably a pretty highly probable one right there.
And I get people wanting to bring other theories in, but until we have something to go on. Like this is something to go on. She's in an erratic state. She was known to be depressed because of the job. She was possibly facing immigration thing with the 90-day. Her husband and her were not doing that good. She didn't have friends that anymore because they all left. And then somebody sees her the night, not her, they don't know, but they possibly saw someone acting erratic the night that she disappeared in the random place that her car is found the next day. So I get trying to bring in other theories, but it also can really complicate things, right? Because now we're not focused. We're focused on some things that don't really have a lot of weight. So that's why I'm saying as much as we want to speculate, we also got to look at what we're looking at here, which is somebody just saw her that night and she was really erratic.
Yes, and those are as stated by an eyewitness that was up there that night. But that was late. So like you said, what was she doing the rest of the day? She said she needed to get some air. So this was at 12:15-ish. It was the last time she texted her husband. When and where and how and why did she get? All right, let's read the rest of
black
this.
box. They need to get the black box from that car.
Right. And the geolocation information from her phone. But guess what? Who has her phone now?
Well, if he didn't have anything to do with it, that information's still going to be there. And so they still could find out where she was that day. But
so
anyway.
two sides of that coin. Say he did it and say he didn't do it. What would you have done with that phone after the police gave it back to you? And say you're a widower and you're extremely embarrassed and ashamed because your wife just unalived herself and you don't want anything to do with her possessions or her phone. Boom, it's gone. Say you did do it,
but we don't.
Boom, it's gone.
Well, but we don't know. So it's like, I'm sure the phone's probably, if they needed to get it, they could probably ask for it back.
Some of it, not all of it, not the gray box or the gray key data. Gray key data. If he got rid of the phone, the gray key data is gone.
Just well, mainly not. I'm not saying to get the phone to go find out more information unless it would bring it to him. I'm saying to get the phone to find out where she was that day.
Right, and that's limited. That's limited if you don't have the actual physical phone. The amount of information you can get from the cell company is limited. There will be some,
yeah,
but it's limited, and it's much
and
more.
I'm not checking yeah, exactly.
So why didn't they? Why didn't they just say, "Hey, we want to extract this data just so we can preserve it. We're still doing an investigation. This is a missing persons investigation. We would like to have her cell phone data. We will give you it back when we're done extracting it. We are seizing it now from exigent circumstances. We'll give it back to you when we're done." No, they gave it to him same day. I have a problem with that.
Well, it is what it is now, but if you could read the comments, I know there's some comments coming in hot.
Hold on. All right.
I just and they've been coming in, so you might want to scroll up a little bit higher because I don't want to miss. I know people are bringing good points, and I know somebody said they were going to bet their bottom dollar that it was the husband, but
I missed
everything. But everything, but there's nothing that would point to the husband other than him just pulling off this perfect crime where and I'm being speculating, and he did this and he made sure this happened, and he made sure that she said all these things about being distraught before, and then it's just been perfect for him now, right? He pulled off and there's been so he pulled off the perfect crime. If you think the husband did it.
Only because the sheriff's department did not conduct a thorough investigation. Because if they had been as thorough with the vehicle and her personal items as other police departments have been in other investigations, it may not have been the perfect crime. They might have found something that was incriminating. They might not have. I'm absolutely 100% not
Yeah,
casting
you're definitely
casting the
speculating.
blame on him. Yeah, right.
Because
But
if you're an investigator and we're missing some pieces here, we don't know what the message say, which that message could change this whole conversation, right? If we knew what that
I think
message said,
I think we have a
would
good
probably
idea. It was a message about intending some type of self-harm. So
okay. So how do we get to betting our last dollar that the husband did it?
I don't know.
When
I'm
that
not there. Whoever said that,
okay,
I'm not there with you. I am
okay,
100% not there with you. Nope.
okay. So
Uh,
are you?
I'm not even betting my first dollar on that.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's why I don't want to drag through somebody's name through the weeds just because somebody, thinks that it could have been, but there's nothing pointing towards it, not even like the slightest, other than he just didn't act like people want him to act. But you know,
No,
when you,
there are red flags. I think Jermaine has a point. There are some red flags,
oh, I
but
get it.
what are those
Yeah.
attributable to?
A red flag to me would be a previous domestic violence situation. A red flag to me would be, her friend saw a bruise. A red flag to me would be, yeah, they argued all the time, right? Not they just, they had normal things of there was no aggression that we
Okay,
heard
but
that they had.
he's a foreign student in the U.S. We don't know his background and criminal history in Hong Kong or China or wherever he's from. She was from Hong Kong. We don't know where he was from. 100%. It was either China, mainland China or Hong Kong. But I have seen cases at Purdue University, and Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, has a large Chinese population, and there have been a couple of cases, and this is in no way slanting anything against Asian students at American universities. There have been some cases where there has been violence, and it becomes a very high profile case, kind of like this one. But
Yeah.
usually it's very obvious from the very beginning that, okay, this foreign exchange student here on a student visa is the one responsible for this. It's not obvious in this case. It's not obvious to me. It wasn't obvious to Pima County Sheriff. It wasn't obvious to Tucson PD. It's not obvious to me. But there are some things that I have questions. I have questions.
Well, there's always questions, but like I said, we just don't want to drag someone's name through the mud on just there's not a lot to grab onto.
What?
And
That's what social media is about. We're all dragging everybody's name through the mud.
no. I mean, it would be, like I said, if I had some more things that, would point, but everything right now is pointing. Her car's found on Mount Lemmon. I mean, I don't want to go through it again, but I think everybody knows where I think she is. Is there, or did you finish that?
Nope. We still
The
have
comments. Yeah, get the comments going.
Angela, you keep commenting. Like, this is let's see. Angela, you're not commenting on my channel. You're commenting on one of 857's. But on my channel, all thoughts and ideas and speculation is welcome, as long as it's respectfully put and it isn't like a personal attack on anybody. So you keep commenting.
No personal attacks.
Yep.
Yeah, no, keep commenting. I just don't want to I want everyone to be open, right? And when everybody's saying that this is the husband did it, I'm gonna bet my last dollar the husband did it. Well, now that's really not helping the situation.
That's okay. You can
okay.
can bet your last dollar. Yeah, that's okay.
And that's where I'm saying is like to just say that when everybody knows that it could be other possibilities too, right? That's where I'm like a little bit. We can't just go. He did it. There's nothing that says at all.
Well, okay.
That he did.
Yeah. Well, they didn't say he did it. They said, "I'd bet my bottom dollar that he did it." So it's not an accusation. It's a speculation, but it's like it's weighing in pretty heavy. Like your
Right.
last
So
dollar.
it's like
Right.
so then my idea that she's up at 8:30 at night, somebody sees her allegedly frantically, she's in a distraught state. She texts her husband, he reads something and he gets distraught, and then they can't find her anymore. So now I'm supposed to ignore that,
Hold
the
on.
real evidence we
Yep.
have.
Yep. Curiousy's got a contrary opinion, and I'm happy to show this because we are gonna get into a police report, which reminds me we need to get back to the reports because we have some pages to go, and there's some important ones, and one of them addresses why did the husband not report her missing for so long. One of them addresses that, so I want to keep going through this report so we can get through more.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to
No
keep reading
offense
this
to
one.
anyone. I appreciate anyone commenting too. I don't want to shy anyone. I'm just, to really be fair. Let's be fair.
All right. I contacted follow-up questions, exact location. So we're down on the last paragraph here. I was able to pull up the aerial view satellite image, which we just did on Google Earth, of the Windy Point Vista. She showed me on the map where she last saw the light before it disappeared, which was the end of the path, which is where I just showed you on that guy standing on the rock. She also stated she did not hear the woman saying anything when she was walking out there, and she again did not come back until the time they left at all, which was around 9 o'clock. After passing that information to search and rescue personnel, I told we may be contacting her further, and then cleared the case. Let's see. This is a foot search of the cliff base at the bottom where the cliff meets the ground. Search for 2.36 miles. 2.36 miles in that scenario is not a huge. I mean, if you're on foot and you're searching and looking for a body, 2.36 miles is a lot, but is in no way all encompassing of that search area. 2.36 miles is nothing in that search area. Like 857 was saying earlier, like there are lots of areas they didn't. All right, here's, this was page 24 and 25. We read that earlier. Here's another foot search guy. I completed a mile of hiking in the general area, looking specifically for high advantage points. He found several, used binoculars, searching for any signs of abundant bird activity. So someone mentioned that earlier. He says there were no birds present the entire time I was there. There were no birds present. I challenge this guy's powers of observation. He's on Windy Point.
He's talking about he's talking.
Yeah,
about
I know. But I have an eye for birds. I used to be a falconer, and I can spot an eagle or a hawk from a little ways away. So for him to say there were no birds present the entire time.
Yeah, well, he didn't view any, but when I was up there, I did see some up there.
All right. At approximately 1700 hours, I responded to the scene. Southern Arizona Rescue Association was out there with Southwest Rescue Dogs. Kudos to all those volunteers that go out there with their canines. These are not government entities. These are private organizations that volunteer their time. So kudos to them. Swarm Survey and a Forest Service Ranger was made aware of a recent discovery. The terrain surrounding the majority of the area was very hazardous. There were several areas of steep and vertical angle that were inaccessible for ground teams. They were able to cover likely areas and points of attraction. I made the decision to stop efforts for the evening for safety reasons. On Wednesday, 4/23, I received a point of interest from review of drone footage. They have coordinates. I'm going to pop those coordinates up on Google Earth real quick, just because I can. It'll only take 3 seconds, I promise. All right, 30 maybe.
Yeah, and, Samantha Wood says they couldn't see her that late at night. The sun is just setting today at 7:21. It would have been way earlier a month ago.
Okay, at ground level, yes, but remember this is at 6,000 to 7,000 feet. So,
Well, Kelt just
that's
Googled it, and the sun set at 6:57, but it would be a different on the mountain tops, perhaps. We do have Andrea V says the husband just looks guilty. Other people agree. You know, the husband is still kind of looking suspicious.
we'll get there. Salty says, "What about the husband not reporting?" We will get there. There is
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously 10 o'clock is pretty late, but it's also like the last time in your mind, if you're thinking that she's going to come home without calling the police, you would wait.
right. Yep.
Right. So you're not going to, he's hoping, where is she? They probably have all these calls that he's made to her, hopefully. And then at 10 o'clock, when she doesn't come home, he's probably called a friend and said, she hasn't come home. We got to call the police. That's what I'm
Wow.
thinking, but that's a good point. How late it was. And then checking the comments. I missed some earlier comments.
We're getting there, Salty. Salty wants details. She always wants details. We're getting there.
People are saying that the husband, and this is another thing, is like the husband isn't out doing interviews. He's not out with missing posters, statements, or TV interviews. And that's something that, you know, people handle differently. But if he in his mind thinks that she has done the ultimate thing, right? The worst thing possible. Just keep going back to the message that he read, that he walked away, that everybody read, and the investigation changed in the tone, and she was distraught, and then somebody possibly saw her in erratic behavior, that the husband in his mind, if he in his finalized mind thinks he knows what happens to her, why would he do more if he knows that she did something bad, right? That's kind of, so I appreciate all the comments and the perspectives.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get to that information about what the husband says was his excuse for not phoning it in earlier. I just wanted to show real quick. Can you see down here in the lower left corner that green arrow? I should have made it red or something. These are the coordinates we just saw on that report. Somebody saw something down there, which is literally right below that sunset lookout point, right? Where I showed you from street view where that was. Like there was a person standing right here and somebody found something of interest right there. So they did a foot search, you know, from the road. So they had to come in from, holy cow. You see that? They had to come like all the way up there and go and check that out. They got coordinates and they went up there and it was just a pile of trash. How does a pile of trash get right there? I mean,
oh, because there's a lookout point at the base of that.
So people just throw stuff over it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, or the wind took it. Because it is Windy Point. So yeah, I could see trash getting somehow ending up there.
All right, here we go. We're going to take a look at the one that everybody's been dying to see. What is his excuse for why he didn't call it in sooner? Boop, bloop. This is page 32 of the document. On April 24th, I made telephonic contact with Patricia's husband, John, to check if he had any updates or additional information to provide. Mr. Zhou's primary language is Mandarin. There we go, guys. There's one of our questions answered. He speaks primarily Mandarin. So okay. I use the assistance of the language line. The interpreter, so a language line is actually you get a real live interpreter on the line. The police department has that resource to call.
Yeah.
He identified himself as Eddie ID number 463728. The call was recorded and later uploaded into Axon for evidence. Refer to the recording for a more accurate account of his statement. Another FOIA request, maybe? The following is a synopsis and should not be taken. Oh, I definitely want to FOIA this now. The following is a synopsis and should not be taken for all that is known in the case. I informed Mr. Zhou I was assisting with the investigation and asked him if he could tell me when he had last seen Mrs. Woo. He stated he had last seen her on the morning of Friday, April 18th. He had left for work at approximately 8:30. So he's got a 9 to 5-ish, 9:30 to 5:30-ish, depending on what he says when he got home. If you have a 9 to 5, isn't it 9 to 5? I wonder how far away from the house his place of employment was, and how long it took him to get home, and what his regular work hours were, and what his work records were, but we won't know because they didn't investigate those. He described it as a seemingly normal day, stating he had given her a hug and a kiss. Of course he gave her a hug and a kiss goodbye before leaving. He explained that his wife usually stays at home while he is at work. He said she appeared to be emotionally stable at the time. God, I'm not trying to read this one with any kind of a slant, guys, but my true crime brain just goes like right down that path. He told the cop that he gave her a hug and a kiss before he left, which is what a guilty person would say and is what an innocent person would say.
Well, you would also say it if that was just like a normal thing they did. I mean, he's
Yeah,
not going to
that's what I said. Yes.
door and not give
Yeah.
her a kiss if that's what they do. So, I mean, it's
right.
I
No,
mean,
I'm not saying you
when
can
you
read
have
any.
somebody that's distraught and you have to go to work, which I've been there, where it's not a good feeling, but he's got to leave for work. You know what I mean?
Right. And how much? So one of their friends says he's not very supportive. So a hug and a kiss is pretty supportive. I mean, we've got to give him kudos for that if it's accurate, but we will never know if it's not.
Focus, Joe. Salty's telling you to focus.
She always keeps me on track.
We gotta wrap this up in the next. We got 20 minutes to wrap it up.
All right, we got
20
this.
minutes.
We don't even have that. I got to get out of here. But no, 20 is good. Yeah. All right.
15, 20.
Yep. Mr. Zhou returned home.
Be better.
Okay. Mr. Zhou returned home from work at approximately 1840 hours. He stated he was very tired. Okay, this is the important point that everybody's asking about. He returned home at 1840. That's 6:40 at night. So if he left at 8:30 and got home at 6:40, I'm wondering what his regular work hours are. But anyway, continuing on. He stated he was very tired and took a nap on the couch. He woke up at approximately 10 o'clock and noticed she still not returned home. At some point, he became very worried and started reaching out to some of her friends and then contacting law enforcement. So this says he contacted law enforcement, or he told this officer that he contacted law enforcement along with his friends. If he didn't, then who did? So I have no reason to not believe that he did contact law enforcement that same night after he woke up and she wasn't home. I asked how her friends, Mrs. Woo's friends, knew to check the Mount Lemmon area for her. He told me Michelle, so that's Patricia's friend Michelle, and Heather is her daughter. With the information that Mrs. Woo went out to get some fresh air, they began searching around town and had the thought to go check Mount Lemmon. I asked him if Mrs. Woo had ever been to Mount Lemmon before. He stated they had gone up there the previous weekend, specifically Sunday, April 13th. So they had been up there the weekend before.
Okay.
So it's reasonable for her to go back up there. Like she was like, whatever state of mind she was in, whatever she was intending on doing, she's going to go back up there the week after that. In my mind, that's a very reasonable pattern of behavior.
Right.
It's kind of odd that she was afraid of heights, that he said she was afraid of heights and she went up there, because that's not a place to go if you're afraid of heights. But maybe she was challenging herself, or maybe she was in a state of mind to do harm to herself. Either way.
Yeah. And I thought someone said she had no friends. She had friends, but they kind of, a lot of them moved after college when she graduated. And so she was kind of in a lonely state, I think, because some of them moved and she wasn't in like regular contact with them.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds like the case. Mr.
Yeah,
Zhou
she had
stated,
friends.
yes, she did.
Yep.
She did have friends. Yep.
Yeah, and there were some that I think at the beginning you talked about that she was sad because a lot of them graduated or some, I don't know how you phrased it or they phrased it in the report, but anyway, keep reading.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Zhou states Mrs. Wu had been having a difficult time finding employment and had been redacted as a result. She had gotten a master's degree attending we know that's the U of A in 2024, and had been looking for a job ever since. Job market was very competitive. The lack of job experience relating to her field was making it difficult to find employment. Had she ever expressed suicidal ideations? I can't believe they didn't redact that. They redact all the other things and they don't redact that word. In the past, he confirmed she had, and he had gotten her help. He stated he was providing her with support and trying to do anything he could to help her calm down and relax. Anytime she expressed these feelings, he stated over time she had shown signs of improvement. I explained we're still actively working the case and searching. That's rescue dogs, concluding search. That was a really big, powerful piece right there.
Yeah.
Strong winds hampered us from flying extremely low and slow. So search and rescue efforts were difficult. Drone support with Sarah. Deputy pointed out the ground south of the point. Drone teams, no results. Here we go. Video footage on Windy Point Vista on May 8th, Thursday, May 8th. I assisted Detective Hilborn in obtaining video footage at the Beyond Bread Mount Lemmon Lodge. I was able to locate the person of interest and her husband. I was able to export the video footage from their arrival to their departure. So that was probably Patricia and John on the 13th, the weekend before. He was able to confirm that his story was accurate, that they had gone up there the weekend before. I'm guessing that's what that footage was of. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because if they would, usually you'll stop at Mount Windy Point and then you'll go up to the top. And it sounds like the Beyond Bread, whatever that lodge is at the top. Is that correct? It's probably in Silver Haven. Nick would know.
Let me find out.
Just going to read the comments.
Yep. Catch us up on comments.
Everything that her husband is saying goes against everything her friends said on the news and interviews. People are still, speculating that he's not being as forthcoming.
Oh, that's weird.
Took them long enough to check the cam. So, the cam, and just to not have any cameras, if you ever go to Windy Point, it's it wouldn't be hard to put a camera there. I mean, but the guy's like, well, we need Wi-Fi service and everything like that. And it's like, well, I think if it's a populated area like that, it should almost be like a no-brainer.
Beyond Bread is outside the other side of Mount Lemmon. It's off the northwest side of Mount Lemmon. So you would have to what's the most common area to get to Windy Point?
There's only really one way up and one way down unless you have 4-wheel drive.
Wow. All right, I got to show that real quick, guys. And then we have one speculation thing to show, and then we're done. All right, so if you look here, let me turn off that. I'm not going to turn anything off so we can see. So Windy Point is here. You come in from the southwest, like along this road that comes up from Tucson, but all the way up to the northwest, like way up here, is Beyond Bread.
Yeah, that's the town. That's the little town. That's where everybody goes. Like if you're going up to Mount Lemmon, you go up to Summer Haven, and that's where.
Okay, so
it's
you
like-
so you
yeah.
come in from this way. No, there's nowhere to come in from that
No,
way.
there's only one way up and one way down, unless you go down the back way.
Okay. So they went up there on the 13th, but then they kept driving all the way into this little town. What'd you call it, Summer Haven?
Yeah. There's a
All
ski
right.
lift up there and everything.
So they got footage of them together on the 13th here. Wow. But that's literally the only video camera footage
and
that they have.
the other thing is like someone saying in the chat, like how did the friend know to check Mount Lemmon? Where was Patricia the entire day, Friday the 18th, before somebody saw her at 7:45, literally erratic, running around her car, not anywhere acting normal, right? Like almost in a frantic, erratic state. And then she runs up a hill, right? From what you described, which is like completely, and she's dressed not appropriately. I mean, they didn't describe what kind of shoes she had on, but she's in pajama pants, right? That's what we don't know. We don't know for a fact what she was wearing other than, but how as far as going forward from that, where was she the entire day, and did she text somebody to say she's going up to Mount Lemmon because she's distraught, and somebody hasn't reported a text message that they got for them to lead to believe that she would, hey, we need to go check Mount Lemmon? Why would that be the first place that they would check, other than there was some clue that would have sent them up there? And so they're whoever is investigating it didn't investigate it enough, I don't think, because how would they know to check Mount Lemmon? Unless the husband had, those finding devices where you can find people's phones, live 365. But do you think that maybe Patricia texted a friend or the husband and it just never got reported that she was going to Mount Lemmon that day?
Well, I think the possibility that exists as the biggest one in my mind is if she was going up there to do self-harm, is that she had told her friend Michelle sometime in the previous week, since they went up to Windy Point the weekend before, hey, we went up to Windy Point. That was kind of cool. It was kind of scary, but it was kind of cool type of thing. And she's outgoing. And then when she texts whoever she texts that she's going to get some fresh air, I think that was John that told her friends she was getting some fresh air. They put two and two together and they're like, how many places can they go to get fresh air? Well, she was just there last weekend, so maybe she went back up there again. They're just like, they're pulling out all the stops.
Well, here's the translating thing, because when I translated that and I posted it, I had all these people that tell me that the Google Translate doesn't translate it correctly. And so maybe she, instead of saying, because in Chinese it translates different, right? Maybe the message actually said something like, I'm going out into nature, I'm going out to the forests, something like that, versus fresh air. And it translates in Chinese is going out into the forest. Does that make sense? Going out into nature.
All right.
Am I reading too deep into it?
No, No. That there is definitely a lot that can be lost in translation, and that makes me want to FOIA that so I can see exactly what the message was. But I don't think we're ever getting it. But
That would help.
we're all speculating, so I just want to close with this one speculation with the husband of the gal that called in the report. It wasn't Michelle. It was Michelle's sister. Now I can't remember what her name was. I'm not going to scroll through my PDF to find it, but it was Michelle's sister. So Michelle is Patricia's best friend, and Michelle's sister is the one that found the car, and her husband was thinking about it. And this, he calls the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and he says, I made telephonic contact with the reportee, Mr. Steve Kinney, who is the husband of the original reportee for the original case. Steve went on to explain and provide a brief backstory of the original case. Let's go down to the next highlighted paragraph. Steve went on to explain that he believes, in short, that the subject Patricia was abducted. He came to this conclusion stating that Patricia was walking across the roadway from the parking spot to the bathroom, that she wanted to use the bathroom at Windy Point, and then was randomly abducted by some random male and female at the bathroom at Windy Point. He went on to explain that he also believed that the person or persons are camping somewhere in the area in a local camping spot, possibly Rose Canyon Lake. Again, he stated it was all speculative. He did not have any evidence. Hold on, let me close that out. That's how I found it. He did not have any evidence to back anything up. They were just his thoughts at the time. Steve stated that he believed that his initial hunch to find Patricia on Mount Lemmon is assisting him with his hunch that she may have been abducted from the scene, and she is not missing nor has unalived herself. Steve also went on to explain that there were several people there that he saw up there when he was on Mount Lemmon, referencing people with telescopes. He was not sure if they were involved or not. Oh, God, dude. Oh, man. He just made all of us true crimers look bad.
Yeah.
They're up there with telescopes abducting Asian students.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems a little far-fetched.
Note, these people were University of Arizona personnel who were observing solar telescopes. They are up there often at Windy Point. I explained to Steve that they were UA personnel. They were up there almost every single week, and they seemed to check out. But you know what? There were probably people up there not using telescopes that were not University of Arizona personnel. So that's just a stupid comment. Come on, Steve. Come on, you can do better, buddy.
And there is people that live up there that might be shady and stuff and things like that. And so that's a small possibility that's something that she was, but it's just like I said, everything to me is just leading to believe that, somebody saw her. And somebody asked a great question. Did anybody see her from the last time that they went to Windy Point or Mount Lemmon the week before until she was found missing? Did anyone talk to her, text her during the week? Shouldn't the police have gotten that phone and pulled that all up to kind of go, well, who did she talk to this last week? It was like none of that has been released.
Yeah. And a lot of their stuff in their investigation hasn't been released. And I'm surprised they released this because, I mean, you saw that front page of that document. I got to pull that up one more time right before we clock out because that blows my mind that this was released. I honestly thought when I saw this that they had found her body because they wouldn't be releasing this if they hadn't found her body.
Check her credit card transactions. They're saying check her, that kind of thing.
There's all kinds of investigation things that they didn't do that they could have done. I think that's the bottom line for me. This says, this page 1 says restricted access, no public dissemination, high profile case. See that? no public dissemination, and they got publicly disseminated. And I thought, oh, and I did tons of Google searches. Didn't look like they found her body anywhere. So here we are, still trying to figure it out and puzzle it out in our minds. We all have our theories, and we all have our theories about which ones are more plausible than others. I think Steve kind of had a wild one that was out there, pointing out University of Arizona students with their telescopes.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you've expressed yours.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The thing is we got to stay focused, right? Because this isn't like some national case that, you know, somebody's on a bridge and they got a camera and the guy's in custody. That we're trying to bring some maybe some whatever the word is, to bring the family some peace, right? If she is up there, right? And unless something else comes in that says, you know, the husband, I got my heart goes towards that mountain, her car found there, her erratic behavior that I just heard about for the first time makes, and I didn't know that today. I was already planning a search to go back up there with a hiking, experienced hiking. I'm going to reach out to a hiking group, very experienced hikers, to go to these other areas, because if she's frantically running around that area, she could have been doing that, you know, your adrenaline's going, she's frantic. She could have ran off a mile or two down the road and down a ravine and kept walking. How far could you walk if you just wanted to keep walking into the wilderness? How far could you walk? You could probably walk 8-10 hours, right? Could you?
She probably could have. I don't know if I can.
I'm just saying, in general, you could, okay, maybe it's 5 hours, 6 hours, but how far could you walk in 5-6 hours? You would be far away from Windy Point, right? And so everybody's focusing the search in Windy Point. That my hunch is that she's outside of that search area, that everything's been searched. And that's why hopefully get some help to go back up there and maybe, you know, and bring the family peace if we do find her.
Well, keep us posted, brother. Like, let us know if you decide to go back up there. Post it on your channel. Everybody who hasn't subbed up to 857 Tucson, sub up. Make sure you follow. And if you want to drop into a really cool chat every morning and every evening for some interesting court cases, we'll be hanging in there too.
Well, Joe, thank you. Let's run by these comments one last time. Curious, he wants he's wants us to slow up real quick before we get off. Make sure read these comments.
Curious, I don't know anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Curious, I don't know anything about her husband's friend that works up there, but I would be interested in learning more. Renwee? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Curious had a good point here. The guy uses telescopes. Anything else, Joe, you can think of?
Nope. Carolina likes your idea.
Yeah, it's happening. I'm thinking next weekend. And I'm gonna put a post on the Facebook, and there's this Arizona hiking group that I'm gonna try to get the people that actually have all the safe supplies you need to hike. So in case everyone's safe, I don't have a lot of it, so I don't know how much, you know, I can do, but I'm gonna try. So if you guys want to be involved, thank you to everybody tuning in and everybody on Joe's channel. Shout out. Thanks for your excellent work, Joe, and helping.
Absolutely. Thank you, mods. Thank you, chat. Wonderful chat today. Like, really intelligent conversation. I mean, obviously there are some conspiracy theories that are way out there, and I'm not convinced it's the husband. I'm not even like halfway there, but I do have questions. And as always, it's always the case with me. Like Lori Vallow Daybell, Delphi, Karen Reed, this case, the police, the shoddy, shitty police work and investigation and not being thorough and just doing your job and collecting evidence the proper way leaves us all with questions that we should not have. That's my take. That's my take from all of this.
Yeah, and it's hard to, because it's kind of water under the bridge now with some of that stuff. Once it's done, they can't really go back.
It's not that. What if we find her body and there's physical harm done to it and it's declared to be a homicide? Why didn't we look at her phone? Why didn't we look at her car? Why didn't we collect evidence from that at the time? Then it's water under the bridge. But and anyway,
well, the main thing is I think, well, the main thing that, I'm just gonna let's summarize, and then we'll say bye. Is they found once they found the car up there, and once he read the note, I'm gonna go back to that because that was the big thing of what I found. When he read the note and his reaction, and everybody's reaction, the friend's reaction, the husband's, the officers, and then the whole demeanor of what was said in that message. So what would, if we knew what was said in that message, it might change our way of hey, she's probably up there. And that's why I think if we did, we would have a 100%. But right now it's just speculation, hoping this helps. It's helping me hopefully get some energy or a positive movement to go do another search and maybe find her, bring peace to the family. But thank you everyone. Salty, Andrea, Rika, Curious, AZ, Mermaid, exactly, Joe, Pammy, ERP. Are these from your chat or mine? I can't tell.
If you're in StreamYard, it's both.
Okay. Queen, Jamin, Angela, I don't know if they're still here. Samantha, Nick, everybody, Star Hunter, Bingo's mom. They're all in here. Good.
All right. Cool. Thanks everybody for hanging with us. We appreciate it. Thanks for being cool. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we will catch you on the other side.
Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of Joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of Joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. If we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of Joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime.